Chapter 580. Only Lin Sun himself knew that it was not because his injury was too serious, but because a part of the divine punishment chain wrapped around the Tao platform of the Grotto Heaven in his body suddenly began to attack in the battle. The terrible power of divine punishment kept eroding his Grotto Heaven Tao platform. This change was so sudden that Lin Sun was also affected by it. He had to start running away, not daring to continue fighting. Go after him. How could the masters of all races give up such an opportunity? Lin Sun was about to collapse, so it was a good time to kill him. At the same time, peerless figures like Yu Shaosheng and Lin Lang also followed Lin Sun's trail. Lin Sun was silent all the way, which was rare for him. This time, the divine punishment was not as simple as he had imagined. It was full of too many strange and terrible things. At least he had never heard of any practitioner in the world who, like him, attracted 6 stages of divine punishment, each more terrible than the last. In the end, he was even drawn into the depths of the divine punishment cloud and fought against the divine punishment thunder. The strangest thing was that when the divine punishment thunder dissipated, there was still a divine punishment chain wrapped around his Grotto Heaven Tao platform, constantly eroding and destroying the foundation of his Tao. Why? Lin Sun's heart was a little heavy. In the fierce battle just now, if the power of divine punishment didn't suddenly burst out and obliterate his Tao platform, how could he be so embarrassed and have to run for his life? Even at this time, the condition of his body was not optimistic. On the Grotto Heaven Tao platform, a piece of gray chain constantly tightened and bound the platform, releasing the supreme power of order and law, constantly eroding it, making the platform tremble violently and become unstable. This was a sign of shaking the foundation of Tao. Once the Tao platform was damaged, Lin Sun's cultivation would be seriously affected. I must find a place to get rid of this disaster in my body. Lin Sun gritted his teeth. His Tao platform was constantly eroded, which affected him and made him cough up blood. Whoosh! Using the ice dragon steps to the extreme, Lin Sun shuttled through the ancient mountains and forests like an illusory shadow. Along the way, he relied on his powerful divine soul to avoid wave after wave of terrifying fluctuations. Not only did he sense the auras of the experts of various clans, but he also sensed the terrifying creatures that were hibernating in the demon saint's secret realm. Behind him, a group of experts chased after him. It was an unprecedented chase. Everywhere they passed, it caused an uproar and attracted attention. The news quickly spread. The Xiozha that were scattered in all the areas of the Yao Saint's secret realm started to understand the ins and outs of this chase. Even outside the sinkhole, there was an uproar. All the important figures were alarmed. It was ridiculous to say that Lin Sun fought against enemies from all directions alone. Although he had an accident on the way and had to escape, many strong people had died in his hands before. Of course, some of the core characters with the Life Soul Bone talismans did not die completely. Their divine souls were directly moved to the outside of the ultimate ruins and appeared on the Life Soul altars built by the various clans. It was also because of this that the great figures outside the sinkhole learned that all of their clansmen had been killed by that human youth without exception. All of a sudden, the whole place was in an uproar. Originally, these days, those big figures had almost forgotten about the human youth. They thought that he had either suffered a catastrophe or had fallen silent. But they never thought that today he would appear again with great strength. With a bloody massacre, he set off a monstrous storm. First of all, many clansmen were killed. There were heavy casualties, and there were many old, strong people who died with hatred. This news was too shocking. He was just a human youth, but he alone killed so many heroes that blood flowed like a river. He was invincible. Who dared to imagine? Moreover, when a human youth was promoted to the Tao Insight realm, he actually attracted a rare and peerless thunder tribulation. This was even more shocking, which made it difficult for those big figures to calm down. Old monsters like them naturally knew what this thunder tribulation meant. The fact that the human youth could survive 6 thunder tribulations in a row meant that he was simply a freak. Even in ancient times, similar cases were extremely rare. From this, it could be inferred how terrifying and abnormal the human youth foundation was. Once a young genius like this grew up, he would definitely shock the world and compete with the most dazzling figures of the past and present. Of course, the more dazzling Lin Sun was, the more these big figures disliked and feared him. After all, many of their clansmen were killed by Lin Sun. How could they allow Lin Sun to continue rising? Taoist Gao Yang, it seems that your spirit treasure, sacred land, has given birth to an amazing, peerless genius. Can you tell us who he is? Many important figures in the Soul Oblivion looked at Elder Gao Yang coldly, their faces filled with hostility. Even the Bull Demon King of the Herculean Bull Demonic clan, Niu Xiaori, looked over. Obviously, he was also startled and curious about Lin Sun's identity. Elder Gao Yang sensed a form of killing intent and an indescribable pressure. This allowed him to realize that many great figures had aroused killing intent in their hearts, and they wouldn't allow the human youth to leave this area of the sea alive. However, Elder Gao Yang also frowned. He couldn't figure out who this human youth was no matter how hard he tried. This was because among the descendants of the Spirit Treasure Sacred Land, apart from Yunshe, there was no sea of Soul's realm existence. Could it be one of the young men in the retinue? Suddenly, Elder Gao Yang's heart moved. Many faces appeared in his mind, and he quickly thought of one person, Lin Xian, the young man who followed Zhao Jingxian. The reason why he thought of Lin Xian was because on the ship, Elder Gao Yang had heard that this youth had easily defeated Su Xingfeng's retinue, which made Su Xingfeng bear a grudge. Moreover, in the intense battle with the vengeful spirit army, Lin Xian's performance was also very special. In the end, he returned from the depths of the vengeful spirit army alone. This was not simple at all. Could it be him or not? Elder Gao Yang was a bit uncertain. After all, that human youth was too heaven-defying and cruel. It was hard for him to connect Lin Xian with this human youth. I'm also not sure, but everyone, please think carefully. If this person is the descendant of the Spirit Treasure Sacred Land, we will not let anyone bully him. In the end, Elder Gao Yang gave such an answer. He was neither humble nor arrogant, and his calm attitude revealed a sense of dominance. This obviously did not satisfy the other big shots, but they also could not do anything about it. Because the operation in the Demon Saint's secret land was still ongoing, they could not interfere and could only wait outside the ultimate. On this day, there was a heated discussion outside the ultimate and in the Demon Saint's secret land. They all remembered this mysterious human youth. Let's go and kill this man. In the Demon Saint's secret land, many top powerhouses made a decision. They were the representatives of the various clans. When they learned that some of their clansmen were killed by Lin Sun, they were immediately furious. They did not even search for the opportunity and rushed to kill Lin Sun. Among them were the saints of the Jade Unicorn clan, the saints of the Li Mu clan, the saints of the Water Ape clan, and other dazzling top figures of the younger generation. There were also many forces that learned that Lin Sun carried the fortune of the sacred island of 5 elements, and it was very likely that there was a saint's Taoist scripture in it. This made them unwilling to be left behind, and they rushed from all directions to seize this opportunity to seize the fortune. This was destined to be a bloody battle, and it was also a gathering of powerhouses. The entire Demon Saint's secret land was in turmoil. I'm going to have a look. In a crater of purple flames, Zhao Jingxian stood up, her clothes fluttering in the wind, and her clear eyes flashed with a trace of imperceptible worry. At the other side, Xiao Ran sat cross-legged while playing the zither, and he seemed extraordinary and otherworldly. His entire body was like a wisp of misty smoke, and he seemed cultured, refined, and extraordinary. But when he learned of Zhao Jingshuan's decision, he could not help but be a little surprised. He said thoughtfully, "Junior sister Jingxian, do you think that the human youth who caused the storm is the Lin Xian beside you? I'm not sure, but I have to go and have a look." Zhao Jingxian looked determined. "Senior sister Jingxian, it won't be long before the Demon Saint opportunity in the Purple Cloud's holy mountain will appear. If you leave now, you're likely to miss it. On the other side, Yin-Che opened his eyes for meditation and reminded her seriously. He had a handsome face and a warm temperament. I made up my mind. After saying that, Zhao Jingxian floated away. After watching her leave, Yin-Che rubbed his chin and pondered. It seems that Lin Xian's identity is not as simple as a retainer. Xiao Ran smiled lightly. Everyone has their own secrets. It's reasonable. Senior brother Xiao Ran, where do you think Su Xingfeng, Wen Xiang, and Gong Yanyu are now? Since entering the Demon Saint's secret realm, besides some news about senior brother Su Xingfeng, the other two senior brothers seem to have disappeared. There's no news at all. Yin-Che suddenly asked. Perhaps they are looking for their own opportunities. However, I believe that when the opportunity in the Purple Cloud's holy mountain appears, they will definitely come in advance. Xiao Ran said casually and continued to play the zither. He seemed calm and indifferent, as if nothing in the world could affect his state of mind. Oh, Yin-Che did not ask any further. Not far away from them, there were many forces gathered near the crater of the Purple Flames. There were experts from the Herculean Bull clan, the Golden Phoenix clan, the Cloud Monkey clan, the Black Turtle clan, and so on. These were the top clans and forces in the Soul Oblivion Sea. They were like overlords. Now that the experts of these clans were gathered here, one could imagine how shocking the opportunity would be. Xiao Ran and the others represented the Spirit Treasure Sacred Land, so they naturally had to participate in this competition. However, they still had to wait because now was not the time for the opportunity to appear. However, it was foreseeable that when this fortuitous encounter truly appeared, an unprecedentedly fierce battle was bound to occur near this violet-colored volcano. Chapter 581. For several days, Lin Sun had been on the run. Along the way, he had been besieged and attacked countless times. He had been in dozens of fierce battles. In the most serious battles, he was attacked by Yu Shaosheng and Lin Lang. Although he escaped in the end, his injuries became more serious. The most chilling thing was that as time went on, more and more powerful people came to kill him, leaving Lin no time to stop and recover. This situation lasted for more than 10 days. Lin Sun's body was broken and mottled with blood. It seemed that he would fall at any time. Even the Lantern King Ginseng had been exhausted by him. This was a peerless medicine, a rare treasure that even life-death realm kings coveted. But now it was exhausted in the constant escape. It could be imagined how dangerous the fierce battles along the way were. The Lantern King Ginseng was gone, but there was still a Kylan grass. What really worried Lin Sun was that although the external wounds could be healed, the injuries on the Tao platform became more and more precarious. The tribulation chain was too strange and terrible. It was full of the supreme power of rules and order. No matter how Lin Sun tried to resolve it, he couldn't do anything to it. On the contrary, it constantly eroded and eroded the Tao platform, shaking the foundation of the Great Way. On this day, after escaping another chase, Lin Sun hid in a cave in the mountains and silently healed his injuries. Time was limited, so he dared not slack off. These days, he had been thinking about why his Tao Insight realm would lead to such a strange disaster. But he still couldn't figure it out, which cast a shadow over his mind. This is a Tao wound. When Lin Sun tried to ask Jin Dui, he unexpectedly got a very heavy answer. You are not tolerated by the gods. I remember that in ancient times, only the taboo and nature-defying figures could cause such terrible tribulations. Jin Dui was also quite shocked. He said, I didn't expect you to be such a monster. What on earth are you cultivating? Tao wound. Lin Sun looked dull. He remembered that the nature, insight, and spirit devour scripture, the meditating magic, the Tianyuan saber play, and the 9 strikes for shaking heaven were all obtained from the heaven accessing place. Even the newly condensed spiritual vein in his body was inextricably linked to the heaven-accessing secret land. In this way, the reason why the tribulation was so strange and caused him to be injured by the Great Way, was it related to the heaven-accessing secret land? Lin Sun was not sure. For cultivators, Tao injuries are undoubtedly the most terrifying. They harm the foundation of the Great Path, and the Tao injury you suffered is even more special. It is the power of the heavenly tribulation. It is almost impossible to resolve it. Jean Dui was not joking. Lin Sun's current situation was so serious that he was not in the mood to joke. Since the ancient times until now, countless peerless and world-shocking figures were unable to recover after suffering a Tao injury, and they faded into the crowd. In the end, they stopped on their path towards the Tao and perished with grievances. Is there no way to resolve it? Lin Sun looked more and more stupefied. After a long time, he sighed softly and stopped thinking about it. He would never give up until the last moment. A few days later, Lin Sun was still on the run. He was constantly being chased. His injuries were so serious that he often coughed up blood along the way. That was because his Tao platform was shaking more and more seriously and began to become dim. This was the foundation of his great path. It could be imagined how terrible the consequences would be if it suffered such a serious injury. Damn God! Lin Sun sighed. Until this moment, he did not give up. He did not believe that he would die in the pursuit. He was still pondering and deliberating on how to resolve the Tao injury in his body. You can go. On this day, after a fierce battle, Lin Sun's injuries had begun to deteriorate. His body was broken, as if a gust of wind could blow him away. He decided to let Jean Dui go. I should be able to hold on for a while longer, but if I encounter any mishaps, you will definitely be implicated as well. So, you can leave now. Lin Sun reminded him seriously. Jean Dui stood on one side, looking at the teenager in front of him who was bleeding constantly. He seemed to be a little surprised, and a touch of complexity appeared on his handsome and charming face. In the end, he just said, "Oh," and waved his hand, saying, "You still have some conscience. When you die, I will set up a grave for you." As he spoke, he turned around and left, quickly disappearing from sight. Lin Sun watched him leave. A touch of self-mockery appeared on his pale and bloodless lips. Then he shook his head and continued to run. A few days later, boom, another battle broke out. It was the Saint of Water Ape Clan and the Saintess of Li Mu Clan who caught up with him. Lin Sun fought with all his might and escaped once again. However, after he escaped this time, he couldn't hold on any longer and collapsed in the depths of a swamp. His entire body was covered in ghastly cracks. His pale face was suffused with a greenish-black color, and his black eyes were dim and lifeless. Still can't resolve it? Lin Sun's heart was filled with strong unwillingness. He completely let go, and his mind was fearless. He didn't care whether there were enemies or not, and he was very ethereal. His body was broken, and his essence, qi, and spirit were almost exhausted. The Tao platform in his body was dim, and the originally bright and clear Tao platform was dyed with terrible gloss of disaster. It was about to collapse. I can only give it a try. One cause and one effect, one drink and one peck. If I want to solve this problem, I should explore from the source. Finally, Lin Sun gritted his teeth and exhausted the last bit of his strength to perceive the mysterious gate to heaven in his sea of consciousness. At this moment, he was like an empty shell about to die. Boom! All of a sudden, at that moment, a tremendous aura burst out from the primary spiritual vein in his heart, spreading out like a surging tide. His incomparably broken body was immersed in the swamp. It was filled with a deathly aura. However, there was a majestic energy spreading from within his body, allowing the injuries all over his body to swiftly heal. Lin Sun didn't notice all this. Different from the past, this time his consciousness entered the heaven-accessing place, and it was still a familiar scene. A straight green cloud path spread straight in the void, and at the end of the path was a mysterious gate, standing there, as if it hadn't been opened for a long time. Once he reached Tao Insight Realm, he would have the opportunity to enter the heaven-accessing place again and challenge the fifth pass of Green Cloud Path. Now Lin Sun stood here again, looking around, with different feelings in his heart. A familiar obscure wave quietly spread and swept through Lin Sun's body. After that, a voice that was cold as ice resounded in this expanse of the heavens and the earth. Practitioner, the fifth pass of Green Cloud Path is Tao Fusion. Do you want to challenge it now? Lin Sun shook his head. How could he have the mood to challenge it at this moment? Without any hesitation, he asked aloud, I just want to ask if the disaster and Tao injury I suffered are related to this place? He clearly remembered that the other party had answered a question when he challenged the last time, which made him sure that the other party must exist and had psychic wisdom. However, at this time, he waited for a long time, but no one answered. The world was silent. Just when Lin Sun was a little discouraged, the cold and emotionless voice finally sounded. This pass is prepared for refining Tao injury. This sentence was earth-shattering. Lin Sun suddenly cheered up. Sure enough, the source of this strange disaster is here. Practitioner, do you want to challenge it? The voice that was as cold as ice asked. Lin Sun took a deep breath and said without thinking too much, yes. Master the meaning of Tao cutting tactics, and you can pass. When this cold voice fell, a rain of light turned into mysterious ancient runes, covering Lin Sun's whole figure. Almost subconsciously, Lin Sun sat cross-legged on the ground and closed his eyes. At the same time, a grand sound of Tao resounded in the depths of his heart, and all kinds of obscure and mysterious mysteries emerged. Tao cutting tactics. In short, this cultivation method was not prepared for cultivation, but a mysterious method to refine the tribulation power against the heaven and Tao, dissolving the tribulation and integrating the Tao into the nature. These words could sum up the real purpose of this wonderful method. It turns out that the creator of the heaven accessing place had already foreseen everything that would happen today when I first started to break through the barriers. That's why he set up the 9 barriers of the Green Cloud Path as a test to guide and pass on the inheritance step by step. No, this is prepared for the challenger, not for me alone. No matter who has the heaven-accessing secret land, when they reach this step after going through many tests, they will encounter similar tribulations. That's why the Tao-cutting formula exists. Against the heaven and Tao, who on earth created the heaven-accessing place? Soon Lin Sun had no time to think about it. He immersed himself in understanding and began to master all kinds of mysteries about Tao cutting tactics. After a long time, the cold voice suddenly sounded in Lin Sun's ears again. The 6th pass of the heaven accessing place is spirit control. Next time you challenge it, you need to master the power of Tao. When the voice disappeared, Lin Sun's consciousness left the heaven accessing place and returned to his body. Cause and effect. Thinking of the thunder test he had encountered before, the bloody pursuit along the way, and entering the heaven-accessing place to find the way to dispel the tribulation, Lin Sun had a kind of enlightenment. For the first time, he realized that there was a mysterious force of cause and effect in this world. Without the heaven-accessing place, there would be no Lin Sun today. But at the same time, because of the heaven-accessing place, his cultivation path became completely different from that of other practitioners. There were many unexpected tribulations and dangers. This was cause and effect. Without thinking more, Lin Sun ran Tao cutting tactics and began to try to dissolve the tribulation power on the Tao platform. His mind was clear and empty, without any desire or thought. With the operation of Tao cutting tactics, there was an invisible, obscure aura in the cave, which shrouded the tribulation chain. In an instant, the cave began to roar and emit auspicious clouds. After a long time, a fierce sound of fighting rang out and shook the field. The momentum was so amazing that even Lin Sun, who was refining the tribulation power with all his strength, was alarmed. Chapter 582. It turned out that there was a mistake in the previous chapter, and a chapter had been corrected. The fierce sound of the battle made the swamp area completely restless. Who was fighting? Lin Sun was lying in the swamp. Although his body was healing, he hadn't recovered yet. The reason was that his previous injuries were too serious. He couldn't even open his eyes at this moment. In addition, he was running Tao cutting tactics with all his strength to resolve the divine punishment chain, so he didn't dare to be distracted at this moment. But even so, Lin Sun still realized that he was facing an unprecedented threat. If he couldn't recover soon, he might be in trouble. Lin Sun didn't dare to neglect. He abandoned all distractions and devoted himself to refining. This time, he was really injured to the extreme. Under normal circumstances, he would die without a doubt. There was no way for him to survive. However, just as he was about to run out of energy, the Origin Spirit Vein released a majestic power that turned everything around. At this moment, with the operation of cutting Tao tactics, the inside of Lin Sun's cave was steaming with auspicious light and the sound of Buddha roaring. The mysterious light rushed up to the platform one by one, completely covering the chain of heaven's punishment and refining it. At this moment, Lin Sun's potential was awakened and fully recovered. Like a dry riverbed, it was watered by the surging power. His cracked and damaged body was repaired, his injuries gradually closing. He began to produce abundant life force, no longer as deathly still as before. Boom! The movement in the cave heaven became stronger and stronger. It could be seen that the divine punishment chain was being refined little by little into a force which was poured on the mottled and dim platform. This was a kind of power of order and law. Although it was refined and the remaining breath was extremely weak, it still had incredible power. Yet now, all of the refined energy had fused into the Tao platform, causing the Tao platform to receive unprecedented nourishment and tempering. This was simply stealing the creation of heaven. Who dared to imagine that the power of divine punishment could be refined and integrated into the cave heaven to pour and temper the Tao heaven? This was the magic of Tao cutting tactics. The power of divine punishment fed the origin of Tao, integrated into the foundation of Great Way, and carried out extreme transformation. The rumbling continued like the Sanskrit sound of the Great Way. Lin Sun's originally dim cave was overflowing with light and colors at this moment, and it was constantly expanding while divine clouds and auspicious light suffused the air. Even the Tao platform had stabilized once more. It was no longer as bright and clean as it was before. However, it now possessed a simple and unadorned aura. As it stood towering within the abode, it seemed as if it could endure hardships and endure eternity with the world. All of this was like a blessing in disguise. When he was on the verge of true death, he turned the situation around in one go and was reborn from death, and it just happened to be like he'd undergone rebirth and cultivation. This was the path to the peak. Even though it could be said to be the strongest path of the Tao in the world, the suffering, setbacks, and hardships one encountered were unimaginably terrifying. Even someone as amazing as Lin Sun was almost killed. Just now, he survived nearly half a month of hunting and torture. This road, at least in Xiao Empire, was absolutely unprecedented and unique. There were practically no records of it in the ancient texts, and it was like a taboo that wasn't allowed to exist in the world. Mother of Asterisker, if I had known there were so many enemies chasing you, I wouldn't have come back. Suddenly, the voice of old Toad, Jin Di, rang in his ears, which surprised Lin Sun, who was in cultivation. Did the toad actually come back? A wisp of consciousness spread out, and Lin Sun immediately saw Jin Di in a green robe beside him, bleeding all over, holding his thigh and scolding angrily with his teeth bared. Ouch, ouch, it really hurts. Boy, I'll remember you. You cut me 3 times, and I'll eat you sooner or later. While shouting, Jin Di looked at Lin Sun beside him worriedly and muttered, "Is this boy really dead? Why hasn't he woken up yet? Alas, if I had known this, I wouldn't have come back." Listening to this, Lin Sun felt a burst of warmth in his heart. He secretly thought that although this guy's character wasn't good, he was very worthy of recognition for his loyalty to friends. At the same time, there was an inexplicable anger in Lin Sun's heart. Obviously, Old Toad had been seriously injured in the battle just now, and he did this to protect Lin Sun. That chick is not bad. Fighting alone with a group of strong people, I really don't know what kind of luck you have to find such a beautiful and affectionate girl. Jin Di sighed with emotion. Lin Sun's heart shook fiercely. There was still someone helping him? He spread out his consciousness and instantly noticed that a fierce battle was breaking out not far away. Yu Shaosheng, the holy son of the Dragon Whale clan, Lin Lang, the holy girl of the Bloodline clan, the holy son of the Jade Unicorn clan, the holy son of the Demonic Elephant clan, the holy girl of the Li Mu clan, and other top figures of the younger generation were all on the battlefield. And at this moment, they were besieging one person. No, not besieging, but being entangled by one person. No matter who wanted to rush to his side, he would be attacked by that person at all costs. That person, it was Zhao Jingxian. Her clothes were stained with blood. Her clear and beautiful face was pale. Her hair was messy, and her figure staggered. Obviously, she had been seriously injured. But even then, she was still resisting and persisting. Her clear eyes were filled with firmness and resolution, and she hadn't hesitated in the slightest. Lin Sun's heart shook while an indescribable feeling surged through his entire body. How could he have imagined that the dignified princess of the empire, the heir of the numinous treasure Holy Land, Zhao Jingxian, would practically disregard her life and fight for the sake of protecting him? You really are mad. You don't even want your life for the sake of this dying young man? A loud shout resounded, and it was a ghastly voice that revealed killing intent. It was Yu Shaosheng, and his expression was filled with impatience. You're all alone, so it's utterly impossible for you to stop us. Quickly move aside and stop resisting stubbornly. Otherwise, you'll definitely suffer calamity today. Many experts threatened because Zhao Jingxuan's strength had exceeded their expectations, and it caused them to feel that it was slightly difficult to deal with. Fortunately, Zhao Jingxian was on the verge of being unable to persist any longer, and it wouldn't be long before she was bound to be killed. Zhao Jingxian seemed as if she hadn't heard all of this, and her expression was firm while her clear eyes were filled with resolution. Blood was dripping from the corners of her mouth, and even her figure was staggering. It caused Lin Sun to feel heart-wrenching pain and hatred, and he wished for nothing more than to immediately kill his way over and stand before Zhao Jingxian. A proud genius of an empire, a direct line descendant of the current emperor, possessed an extraordinarily lofty status. However, at this moment, she was like a stubborn madwoman that disregarded everything and stopped all enemies from approaching Lin Sun at all costs. This sort of scene seemed to be exceptionally horrifying and shocking. No one could understand whether it was worth paying such a price for the sake of a dying young man. It was precisely because of this that Zhao Jingxuan's actions seemed to be childish and laughable in the eyes of the top figures of the various clans. She was like a moth flying into a flame, and she seemed to be extremely stupid. Alas, if I'm able to have such a woman by my side in my lifetime, then it would be worth it even if I don't seek immortality. Jin Dui sighed with emotion. He was shocked as well, and he was unable to imagine exactly how important Lin Sun's status in Zhao Jingxuan's heart was to the point that she actually risked her life to help him. Kid, wake up quickly if you still have any conscience. Once such a beauty passes away, then you're bound to live with regret for your entire lifetime. Jin Dui murmured. As if hearing Jin Dui's words, Lin Sun's body, lying in the swamp, suddenly sat up. The wounds on his body were constantly healing and regenerating. Boom! A powerful wave spread from Lin Sun's body like a hurricane, sweeping through the swamp. The whole world trembled like the undulating waves of the sea. However, Lin Sun just sat there cross-legged with his eyes closed, without any further action. However, it could be clearly seen that a brilliant divine glow was steaming out of his body. It was brilliant, magnificent, and brilliant, like a waterfall, and there was a strong and immeasurable life essence surging. At this moment, the world seemed to be robbed of its brilliance by Lin Sun and became dim. In the hazy mist and undulating swamp, Lin Sun was like a statue receiving a kind of nourishment and baptism, shining with dazzling divine brilliance. Ha, he's awake. This guy has finally woken up. He actually resolved the Taoist injury. My God, this guy is definitely a monster. Suddenly, Jin Dui laughed. Not far away, the expressions of Yu Shaosheng, Lin Lang, and the other strong people changed as they realized that the situation was not good. Zhao Jingxian was originally on the verge of collapse, but at this moment, when she sensed the surging vitality that erupted from Lin Sun's body, Her clear eyes suddenly brightened, and she murmured in her heart, "Do you all see it? This is the meaning of my persistence. Kill. Kill this woman quickly. Damn it, this kid actually wants to rise again. We must not let him succeed. Quick, use your strongest means." The strong people of the various races shouted and launched their strongest attacks. In just an instant, Zhao Jingxian was heavily injured again. A long wound was torn on her back. Her skin and flesh were torn open, and blood was dripping. Her internal organs were almost injured. Kill. At the same time, Yu Shaoxing seized the opportunity and rushed out, carrying the dragon bone halberd, and slashed towards Lin Sun. With a bang, the void shattered. It was conceivable how terrifying this attack was. It was definitely Yu Shaoxing's strongest attack. "With me here, how can I let you succeed?" Suddenly, Jin Dui shouted loudly. Even though he'd already suffered a heavy injury, he actually charged up ferociously at this moment and helped Lin Sun block this attack. But in the next moment, he was blasted flying and smashed into the swamp. The bones in his entire body seemed to have been broken, and he was on the verge of death. "Little bastard, let's see if you can survive this time." Yu Shaoxing's expression was cold. As he spoke, his movements weren't slow in the slightest, and he swung the halberd mercilessly and gave rise to a terrifying brilliance of the Tao. "How dare you?" In the distance, Zhao Jingshuan's expression changed abruptly as she let out an extremely furious roar, and she disregarded everything as she charged over. But she was obviously a step too late. The dragon bone halberd descended, and it was about to chop off Lin Sun's head. "No!" Jin Dui, who was on the verge of death, let out a howl, and his eyes almost split apart from rage. "We've already come this far. Could it be that I'm going to be killed just like this?" But to everyone's surprise, Yu Shaoxing's attack had clearly arrived before Lin Sun's head, yet stopped there and was unable to chop down. Chapter 583. Bang! A loud bang resounded as Yu Shaoxing's figure and the halberd in his hand were blasted flying by a terrifying force. His figure staggered back for over 30 meters before he stopped. Even though he didn't suffer any injuries, a wisp of surprise and bewilderment had already appeared on his face. The others were even more shocked. They were unable to imagine that Lin Sun would crush Yu Shaoxing's strongest attack with only his palm at the most critical moment. Zhao Jingxian was originally nervous to the extreme, yet when she saw this scene, her heart that was hanging in her throat finally relaxed, and a wisp of a relieved smile appeared on her face. "Kid, quickly get up and kill these utterly heartless and despicable bastards." Jin Dui shouted loudly as well. He was on the verge of death, and he was obviously severely injured, yet he seemed to be very spirited and excited at this moment. However, Lin Sun still sat there cross-legged while his entire body glowed. There were no cracks or scars on his body, and he was completely unharmed. On the other hand, within the cave within his body, the radiance of spiritual energy surged like an ocean while dazzling divine radiance gushed out. A simple and unadorned platform stood there, and 3 divine lights that were dazzling like white jade hung down from it. Everything seemed grand, vast, and brilliant. He'd completely recovered. His injuries had been completely resolved, and the energy of the tribulation chain had been crushed and fused into the platform to become nourishment for consolidating and tempering the platform. At this point, his entire body had stepped foot on the peak of the initial stage of the Tao Insight Realm, and he'd become even stronger than before. At this moment, no one dared to step forward and offend him because the aura that flowed out from Lin Sun's body was too overbearing and arrogant, and it suppressed all the beasts in this world to the point of trembling and prostrating themselves on the ground. Swoosh! Lin Sun opened his eyes, and it was like 2 mountain peaks had torn open the void, causing the entire void to be dazzling and shocking. Up until this moment, Lin Sun felt that he was completely different from the past, and he could truly look down upon the world and the crowd. The terrifying aura was restrained and concealed within Lin Sun's body like a tide. All the beasts in this world stopped trembling, and they quickly got up and fled as if they'd been freed. Lin Sun's figure was extraordinary, His eyes were clear and deep, peaceful and tranquil. His entire body was filled with divine radiance, and it didn't contain the slightest trace of the mortal world. His gaze swept across the surroundings, and there was a sense of returning to simplicity. "You're finally awake, not far away," Zhao Jingxian said softly. A smile bloomed on her pale face, which made Lin's heart tremble. Before he could finish speaking, Zhao Jingxian seemed to be unable to hold on any longer. Blood flowed from the corner of his mouth, and his body fell from the sky. In the previous battle, she'd fought against many saint-level figures by herself. She'd staked everything on a single throw, and it was as if she didn't care about her life. It was already a fluke that she'd survived. But now, because her injuries were too severe, she simply could not hold on any longer. Lin Sun's figure flashed, and he embraced Zhao Jingxian in his arms with great force, as if he was deeply afraid that the latter would be lost if he let go. Zhao Jingxian frowned and said, "You're hurting me." Her face was clear and beautiful. In the past, she always looked elegant and smart. Now lying in Lin Sun's arms, she showed a rare trace of weakness. Lin Sun gazed at her pale face. He originally had a lot to say in his heart, but in the end, he only said one sentence: "Have a good rest. Leave the rest to me." This sentence was so simple and plain as if it was a casual chat, but stunned Zhao Jingxian. Inexplicable emotions were fermenting in her eyes. In the end, she just said, In the distance, Jean D was lying in the swamp, muttering angrily to himself. "What a guy who forgets his friends at the sight of love. Didn't he see that I almost died? Why didn't he come to save me first? My injuries are much more serious than that girl's." As if he'd heard Jean D's voice, Lin Sun turned his head and said, "Thank you, old toad." Jean D shouted loudly, "If you really want to apologize, then go and kill those bastards for this king." "Okay." Lin Sun nodded and agreed readily. It was just that before the battle, he first sent Zhao Jingxian to the first floor of the Wordless Pagoda to recuperate, and then asked Jean D if he wanted to recuperate first. In the end, he was flatly refused by the latter, saying that he wanted to see how those guys died with his own eyes. During this process, Yu Shaosheng, Lin Lang, and the others watched coldly from the sidelines, observing Lin Sun's aura. They didn't act rashly. In reality, from the moment Yu Shaosheng had been blasted back, they'd realized that it was already impossible to kill Lin Sun before he recovered. And the aura released by Lin Sun made them feel frightened and oppressed, so they didn't dare to act rashly. But when they heard Jean D call them bastards and say that he wanted to see Lin Sun kill them with his own eyes, they still couldn't help it. "Hey, do you really think he's a savior? What a joke. So what if he recovers? In front of us, he can't escape death." The holy son of the Green Unicorn clan spoke, his eyes cold and murderous. "Everyone, it's undeniable that this lad is very difficult to deal with. Most importantly, if we want to seize the fortune on this lad, we must kill him before others arrive." Yu Shaosheng also spoke with a cold expression. "So, why don't we join forces and wipe him out with all our might, then divide the fortune on him?" As soon as these words were spoken, many powerhouses immediately agreed. The aura that Lin Sun revealed just now was too strong, and it actually made them rather fearful. It couldn't be better if they could join forces. But I have something to remind everyone. When dealing with this lad, you can't hold back your strength like you did with that woman just now. Lin Long's voice was cold as she reminded them. When dealing with Zhao Jingxian just now, they fought individually, all wanting to be the first to kill Lin Sun and seize the fortune. This instead gave Zhao Jingxian many opportunities to take advantage of, causing them to lose many excellent opportunities. This time, they had to deal with Lin Sun, who had recovered, and Lin Lang didn't want something similar to happen again. The other holy sons of the other clans were silent, agreeing with this suggestion. "Are you done? Then I'll send you on your way." Lin Sun watched all of this with an indifferent expression, and it was only now that he finally spoke. His entire body suddenly rumbled and flowed with Taoist rhymes, and his aura instantly rose to an extremely terrifying peak state. It was as if a god had awakened in his body, and it was shocking. The heavens and the earth wailed, the weather changed, and the terrifying aura wreaked havoc, causing the souls of Yu Shaosheng and the others to palpitate incessantly. What a terrifying aura! The Holy Sun's expression was solemn. If this lad isn't eliminated, no one will be able to suppress him in the future. Sooner or later, he'll become a great calamity. Yu Shaoxing's killing intent burst forth. Kill! A powerhouse took the lead to attack. It was the holy son of the demonic elephant clan. His physique was as huge as a mountain, and his entire body seethed with deep and terrifying demonic qi. In his hand, he carried a giant white bone rod. With a rumble, he smashed through the void and smashed it towards Lin Sun's head in the distance. That level of power was completely capable of crushing mountains and rivers and throwing the universe into disorder. It was too violent and ferocious. Dazzling Taoist rhymes appeared around Lin Sun. Multicolored light flowed, divine and vast, as if a god had descended to the mortal world and was patrolling the world. He struck out with a casual punch, meeting his opponent head-on. Dong! The seemingly ordinary punch shook the giant white bone rod to the point of trembling and wailing. Meanwhile, the body of the holy son of the demonic elephant clan was enveloped by the force of the punch, and he was sent flying as if he was being crushed by a divine mountain. Such might instantly shocked everyone. A single punch had defeated the holy son of the demonic elephant clan, and he was unable to compete with Lin Sun. This is truly heaven-defying. In the distance, Jin Di's eyes widened as he muttered to himself with an excited expression. What are you still standing there for? Let's attack together. Yu Shaoxing roared furiously. With a clang, he waved the dragonbone halberd and let out a long howl as he slashed out. The other powerhouses naturally didn't dare to be negligent. Merely a single strike had made them realize how terrifying and abnormal this human youth was. This made them feel even more fearful, and they didn't dare to disregard him. All of them attacked. Buzz! Grand and ancient sound waves resounded in the surroundings. The blood-colored bronze bell revolved and appeared, accompanying the holy girl to kill Lin Sun. Huff! The holy son of the Green Unicorn clan shouted and took out a green jade ruler. Mysterious Taoist patterns emerged on it, and it had a kind of majestic power that could enlighten all living beings. Without a doubt, this green ruler was also an ancient saint artifact. Whoosh! An emerald green divine brilliance pervaded the air, turning into an ancient armor that covered the body of the holy girl of the Li Mu clan. The armor was branded with a mysterious totem, and it had a kind of vast and primitive aura. Obviously, the origin of this armor was also extraordinary. Now, these holy sons of various clans attacked with all their might. In an instant, there was a shocking fluctuation in this world, as if the end of the world was coming. The scene was extremely terrifying. In this turbulence, Lin Sun's black hair was loose, and his eyes were clear and bright. He had an indescribable, transcendent demeanor. Using the ice dragon steps, he walked out of holiness step by step with immeasurable divine power. He displayed the 9 strikes for shaking heaven. His fist strength was simple and untainted, but it possessed an incredible destructive power. It collapsed the void, shook all kinds of secret treasures, and destroyed all laws. It couldn't be suppressed at all, even if he was besieged by a group of peerless figures of the same generation. Even if he was restrained by many shocking secret treasures, they couldn't suppress his demeanor and divine power at all. Rumble! Heaven and earth rumbled as if the sky was falling and the earth was splitting. How shocking was the attack of the Holy Sons. In the outside world, such an unparalleled battle was extremely rare, and it would attract the attention of the world and set off a great uproar. Die! In the battle, the holy son of the Green Unicorn clan roared angrily. He raised the green jade ruler and seized the opportunity to smash it towards Lin Sun's back. With a roar, the shadow of a divine beast emerged from Lin Sun's back. It raised its head and roared. With a rumble, it directly knocked the holy son of the Green Unicorn clan away. His body trembled, and he coughed up blood. Slash! On the other side, Yu Shaosheng waved his halberd and struck down. Lin Sun didn't even look at him. He punched out, and the sacred fist's strength burst forth, sending Yu Shaosheng flying and staggering. At the same time, the shadow of an ice dragon appeared under Lin Sun's feet. With a flick of its tail, it fiercely whipped the holy son of the demonic elephant clan. The latter let out a muffled groan as the bones in his shoulder collapsed and blood flowed. In an instant, 2 holy sons were forced back, and one was even injured. Such peerless divine power was simply unparalleled, and it made Lin Sun all the more extraordinary. He was like a king sweeping through all enemies of the same realm. In the distance, Jin Dui was dumbfounded. His heart was completely boiling, and he was shocked again and again. He could imagine that Lin Sun was destined to be very strong after he recovered, but he didn't expect him to be strong to this extent. Chapter 584. The heavens and the earth shook. A swamp had collapsed long ago. The ground cracked, and it was a scene of desolation. Lin Sun strode through the sky. His figure glowed while his black hair fluttered in the wind, and the image of an ice-hornless dragon coiled around him. Even though he was alone, he'd fought numerous top figures of the same generation. His divine might was supreme, and he possessed an unparalleled spirit. Auspicious rays of light surged, and spiritual energy rumbled within his abode. An ancient platform was enshrouded by 3 treasures, and it emanated the faintly discernible sound of the Grand Tao. It was boundlessly divine. No one could imagine how terrifying Lin Sun's reserves were at this moment, or how formidable the path he'd stepped onto was. Bang! In merely a short moment, Saintess Lin Lang was pushed back. If it wasn't for the protection of the blood-red bell, merely this attack would be sufficient to heavily injure her. Even then, she couldn't help but cough up blood, and her expression became even colder and more solemn. Kill! Yu Shaosheng shouted explosively with peerless valor. The dragon-bone halberd emanated surging markings as he fought fiercely with Lin Sun, and his killing intent poured out like tidewater. But it wasn't long before he couldn't hold on any longer, and he had no choice but to retreat. The reason was that the strength of Lin Sun's fist was too strong. It seemed to be casual and otherworldly, but it was actually filled with the might to destroy the heavens and the earth, and even Yu Shaosheng didn't dare take it head-on. How could he be so strong? His expression grew even more gloomy and unsightly. At this moment, it wasn't just him and Lin Lang. All the other saints were like this as well. How formidable were they when they joined forces? But they were unable to suppress Lin Sun, and they were suppressed repeatedly instead. This caused their hearts to turn cold. What sort of monster was this? He just advanced into the heavenly abode realm, and he'd almost been killed in the pursuit just now. But he'd recovered in the blink of an eye, and his combat strength had become even more terrifying than before. This was simply unbelievable. Everyone, if we don't eliminate this kid, then no matter who it is, we'll have to live under his shadow in the future. Are any of you willing? Yu Shaosheng let out a long howl, and he encouraged everyone to exert their full strength. Otherwise, the consequences would be unimaginable. Kill! He was the first to use his trump card. Phantoms of mountains appeared on the dragon bone halberd one after another, stacking on top of each other and suppressing the void. When looked at from afar at this moment, he seemed to be moving through a mountain, and his entire body was glowing brilliantly. He was simply like a king of gods that was moving mountains. Everyone glanced over and were extremely moved. What sort of might is this? It was too thrilling. Boom! Lin Sun confronted him head-on. He stretched out his palms and fingers and directly smashed a mountain. Then, he stepped forward bravely and fiercely fought with him. In that instant, the ice centipede's cries resounded through the 9 heavens. Its powerful body spiraled about, actually blasting those mountains into pieces, turning them into a rain of light that exploded. Yu Shaosheng's trump card attack was actually about to be broken. The hearts of those divine children constricted, and they didn't dare dally at all. They charged over from all directions while utilizing their entire strengths, and they didn't dare dally in the slightest. For a time, figures intersected in this expanse of the heavens and the earth while divine radiance seethed, and an area of 50 kilometers in the surroundings had transformed into a turbulent battlefield. One had to admit that Yu Shaosheng and the others did indeed possess extremely impressive resources to be able to become the chosen of the various races. They were definitely the top figures of the younger generation, as dazzling as the sun. At this moment, they'd utilized their entire strengths and trump cards in unison, and it instantly turned the entire situation around. They encircled and suppressed Lin Sun, causing the battle to be intense to the extreme. But they were unable to kill Lin Sun in a short period of time. Rumble. Divine rays of light shot through the sky, while secret treasures shocked the world. This was a peak battle that was rarely seen in the world. If news of this were spread, then probably no one would dare believe that Lin Sun was actually able to compete with all the divine children by himself. Along with the passage of time, this battle grew more and more horrifying and extremely dangerous, and it caused Yu Shaosheng, Lin Lang, and the others to become anxious in their hearts. They didn't have time to waste. If they didn't kill Lin Sun as soon as possible and seize the fortune in his possession, then it wouldn't be long before even more experts would rush over. If that was the case, then all the efforts they'd made earlier would be utterly meaningless. Fellow Taoist, so long as you hand over the fortune in your possession, then we'll turn around and leave right away, and we won't be enemies with you any longer. How about it? Suddenly, the Jade Unicorn clan's chosen spoke. This suggestion caused the others to be slightly moved. All of them realized that even if they were able to suppress Lin Sun this time, it would be extremely difficult to kill him. Even if they were unwilling, they had to admit that Lin Sun was really too strong, and he was simply like a heaven-defying monster. I'll give all of you a suggestion as well. Leave your lives, and I can give all of you a dignified death. Lin Sun's expression grew even more calm and indifferent while his black eyes were clear and bright. But no one knew that his heart was already filled with killing intent. He'd been besieged when he was undergoing the heavenly tribulation, and then he'd been repeatedly pursued by Yu Shaosheng and the others during his escape for over 10 days. He'd experienced innumerable dangers, and he'd even almost lost his life on many occasions. Under such circumstances, how could Lin Sun discuss terms with them? Even if he didn't discuss all of this, merely for the sake of Zhao Jingxian, Lin Sun would absolutely not allow these fellows to leave unharmed. Looks like you intend to shed all pretense of cordiality with us. Haha, what an arrogant human. Cut the crap. Kill him with all your might. Lin Sun's voice revealed resolute killing intent, and it caused Yu Shaosheng and the others to be completely infuriated, causing their attacks to become even more terrifying. Boy, you must hold on. If you don't kill them today, will you be worthy of everything I've done for you? Far away, Jean Dui muttered. In fact, he was also a little nervous. The battle had become more and more tragic and terrifying, making it difficult for him to calm down. Clang! Suddenly, Lin Sun, who was in the midst of the battle, took out his broken blade. In an instant, the power around him changed again. He was like a sword immortal, blooming with peerless sharpness. Almost at the same time, the holy son of the demonic elephant clan approached. When he noticed the change in Lin Sun, his face suddenly changed, and his scalp went numb. He subconsciously dodged to one side. He sensed an extreme sense of danger, but he was obviously a step too late. In an instant, it seemed as if stars fell from the blade one after another. The eternal night came, covering all directions as if to erase everything. RFS. However, the current RFS contained a wave of Tao, which combined with Lin Sun's peerless power that belonged to Tao Insight Realm. It was like a brand new, and its power was completely different from before. Boom! Stars fell, and the eternal night came. The power was so terrifying. The holy son of the demonic elephant clan roared in anger. He waved the green jade ruler in his hand, and almost staked everything on one throw. He released all his power to fight against the eternal night. But after an earth-shattering roar, his whole figure was submerged by the terrible divine light, and he screamed. This made Yu Shaosheng and the others' hearts skip a beat, and their faces changed abruptly. When they wanted to help, it was too late. In an instant, the holy son of the demonic elephant clan seemed to be cut into pieces. His flesh and blood flew everywhere, and his figure was broken. If it weren't for the Green Jade ruler, he would have been killed on the spot. Even so, he was still seriously injured. He let out a crazy and shrill scream and fled into the distance. That's right, at this moment, an incredibly awe-inspiring holy son had fled like a stray dog in the face of the threat of death. How could Lin Sun let him do as he wished? He chased after him with the broken blade in his hand. "Stop him!" Yu Shaosheng roared and besieged Lin Sun with other strong men. Boom! A cold light flashed in Lin Sun's black eyes, and he displayed the burning sun style without the slightest hesitation. It was like a sun had soared into the sky, and it burned fiercely and emitted a terrifying, destructive, and incinerating force. This expanse of the heavens and the earth were incinerated. The void distorted and wailed, and everything was burning. The force was too terrifying, and it was simply about to incinerate the heavens and the earth. Amidst a wave of furious roars, Yu Shaosheng and the others were blasted back by this attack. They either dodged in a sorry state or coughed up blood and suffered injuries. The scene was terrifying. It was only a single attack, but the siege of the Holy Sons was broken. What was peerless brilliance? That was it. Lin Sun, who held the broken blade in his hand, seemed so arrogant, and it caused them to be terrified. Their only regret was that the holy son of the demonic elephant clan had taken advantage of this opportunity to escape, and he was lucky enough to keep his life. However, with the heavy injuries he suffered, even if he stayed in the demon saint's secret realm, it would be impossible for him to recover in a short period of time. How could they fight him? At this moment, Yu Shaosheng and the others were livid, and their hearts were filled with fear. The way they looked at Lin Sun had changed. Their fighting spirit was shaken. The miserable condition of the holy son of the demonic elephant clan made them completely aware of Lin Sun's terror, and they began to be fearful and terrified. Kill! Lin Sun attacked again. He did not stop at all, nor did he intend to give his opponents any chance. The broken blade swept across the sky, and it was as if a galaxy had been rolled up. Stars rolled and gushed out. This expanse of heaven and earth trembled, and the fierce battle continued. However, it was different from before. Yu Shaosheng, Lin Lang, and the others had realized that the situation was different. Lin Sun's power was matchless, and he was almost unrivaled and could no longer be suppressed. The worst thing was that their fighting spirit had been shaken. After all, they did not come from the same camp. Although they were cooperating, who would risk their lives desperately when they sensed that something was wrong? Boom! Before long, an arm of the Li Mu clan's saintess was chopped off, and blood burst out like a waterfall. Her pretty face suddenly turned pale, and she let out a muffled groan. She actually gritted her teeth, turned around, and fled. Broken arms could be regrown, but if she was killed here, the consequences would be too serious. The other strong men felt a chill in their hearts. The saintess of the Li Mu clan was wearing an ancient armor with unparalleled defensive power, but she was still chopped off by Lin Sun and fled. Let's go. At this moment, Yu Shaosheng, Lin Lang, and the holy son of the Jade Unicorn clan withdrew from the battlefield at the same time and fled to the distance with incomparable decisiveness. This made the only remaining holy son of the Water Ape clan suddenly dumbfounded. He was so angry that his eyes turned red, and he roared, "A group of cowards! I was blind to cooperate with you." To his surprise, Lin Sun ignored him at this moment. Instead, he waved his sleeves and released the four-image coiling dragon pillar, which trapped Lin Lang in the distance with a bang. At the same time, insignificant spiritual bow appeared in his palm. With a bang, a silent spiritual arrow shuttled through the void and shot towards Yu Shaosheng in the distance. From releasing the four-image coiling dragon pillar to pulling the insignificant spiritual bow, it was almost done in one breath. It was incredibly fast. The speed of the action stunned the holy son of the Water Ape clan, and an inexplicable thought emerged in his mind. Could it be that this guy had already expected such a scene, so he was ready to kill in advance? Chapter 585. With a rumble, the four pillars shone brightly, trapping the saintess within. This set of treasures was also an ancient treasure. Although it had a simple function, it was extremely magical. It could create illusions and trap the opponent within. Even if a life-and-death realm king came to the rescue, it would be hard to shake within a cup of tea's time. Puff! On the other side, the spiritual arrow pierced through the air. Under the lock of Lin Sun's enormous soul power, it instantly pierced through Yu Xiaoxing's back, blowing half of his body into pieces. Flesh and blood flew everywhere. If it were any other practitioner, this attack alone would be enough to kill them. However, Yu Xiaoxing seemed to be different. With only his broken body, he managed to hold on and continue to escape. When Lin Sun wanted to add another arrow, his opponent had already disappeared without a trace. This made Lin Sun frown. He then looked at the Saint of the Water Ape Clan not far away. The latter's face turned green, his eyes filled with fear. He clenched his teeth and said, "I have the bone talisman. You can't kill me. How about we make a deal?" He was indeed afraid. Just now, he was surrounded by a group of saints, but he was still defeated by Lin Sun. Now that he was the only one left, how could he have the confidence to fight against Lin Sun? Without waiting for Lin Sun to speak, he flipped his hand, and a storage bracelet appeared in his palm. He said, "This contains some rare spiritual medicines and treasures I collected after entering the Demon Saint's secret realm. As long as you let me go this time, I can give them all to you." Lin Sun shook his head. Not enough. The Saint of the Water Ape Clan's face darkened, but he finally restrained himself and said, "What on earth do you want to let me go? I heard that your Water Ape Clan has an ancient inheritance called Golden Body of Fire. If you hand it over, perhaps I can exchange it for your life." At this moment, the old toad appeared out of nowhere. Its pair of golden eyes stared at the Saint of the Water Ape Clan, making the latter's hair stand on end. "No way. This is the supreme inheritance of my clan. I would rather die than give it to anyone else." The Saint of the Water Ape Clan refused without hesitation. "Then hand over the white bone rod in your hand. That should be enough, right?" The old toad's eyes were extremely vicious, and his face was full of desire. The Saint of the Water Ape Clan was so angry that his face turned green. He was a saint. When had he ever swallowed an insult like this? Not to mention being extorted and robbed. "This is my clan's ancestral artifact, the Holy Bone Staff. It can't be given to outsiders either. To put it bluntly, even if I gave it to you, you wouldn't be able to use it." The Holy Son of the Water Ape race flatly refused again. Old Toad was instantly annoyed. "Damn monkey, why are you so stubborn? Do you believe that we will kill you first and then plunder all the treasures on you?" The Saint of the Water Ape race sneered. He wasn't afraid of the old toad, but he was afraid of Lin Sun. "How about this?" Old Toad stroked his chin, his eyes darting around as he casually said, "Other than your inheritance and the ancestral artifact, leave behind all your other treasures, and I'll let you go this time." Lin Sun had the intention to kill, but after hearing Old Toad's words, he immediately decided to look on coldly. This toad was a three-legged golden toad that could identify all kinds of treasures. He must have taken a fancy to some kind of treasure on this water ape. All right, this time, the sacred son of the Water Ape tribe hesitated for a while, but eventually agreed and handed over all his treasures. "Are you really going to let him go?" Lin Sun frowned. The sacred son of the Water Ape race had already left, but if he tried his best, he could still catch up with him. "Alas, let him go." Old Toad's expression was a little complicated. After a long while, he said, "The ancestor of the Water Ape race was actually a descendant of the ancient six-eared macaque. Although the current Water Ape race has almost nothing to do with the six-eared macaque, you'd better not provoke them." Lin Sun was stunned. Why? Old Toad knocked on his head and said with a sad face, "I can't remember. Anyway, my intuition tells me that this clan should be involved in a monstrous cause and effect. I better not get involved with them. Otherwise, No matter if I'm their enemy or friend, I'm bound to get into trouble. Monstrous cause, in effect? Lin Sun was lost in thought. Next, Old Toad began to count the trophies he had plundered from the sacred son of the water ape race with a happy face, like a miser. Lin Sun's figure flashed, and he entered the dreamland created by the 4 image dragon pillars. In the dreamland, the Saintess Lin Lang was driving the blood-red bronze bell with all her strength, trying to break the dreamland. Unfortunately, it was doomed to be in vain. When Lin Sun appeared, he didn't hesitate at all. He attacked with all his strength and began to suppress the opponent. He didn't just have a good impression of this woman. He simply hated her to the extreme. As early as in the sacred island of 5 elements, they had become enemies because of a Taoist scripture of the sage. Then, during these days of escape, he almost died in the hands of this woman several times. Now, even Zhao Jingxian and Old Toad were seriously injured because of this woman. How could Lin Sun not hate her? In the dreamland, the Saintess Lin Lang's extremely resentful scream rang out. At this moment, she was really shocked and angry, but also had a kind of unspeakable fear. She even tried to negotiate with Lin Sun several times. But Lin Sun didn't make a sound from beginning to end. His attacks were fierce and merciless. In the end, the Saintess Lin Lang was killed on the spot, and her head was chopped off. But what made Lin Sun helpless was that the bone talisman of Lin Lang's life soul was activated, wrapped up a wisp of her soul, and moved away. Even the 4 image dragon pillars couldn't stop it. What surprised Lin Sun even more was that the blood-red bronze bell couldn't be suppressed or taken away. As if it had a spirit, it disappeared into the void. This was the power of the ancestral weapon, mysterious and unpredictable, which made Lin Sun helpless. But fortunately, the Saintess Lin Lang's body had been destroyed, and the other treasures she carried were destined to be unable to be moved away. Soon, Lin Sun found a storage ring, which was shining with treasures. There were all kinds of spiritual herbs and spiritual materials piled up like a hill, all of which could be regarded as treasures of inestimable value, dazzling Lin Sun. Even Lin Sun couldn't help but sigh with emotion. Sure enough, the treasures on the bodies of these saints were the most abundant. Finally, Lin Sun's eyes fell on an incomplete Taoist scripture. It was golden and shining, clear and clean, and filled with the mysterious aura of a saint. Impressively, it was another part of the Taoist scripture of a saint. This was undoubtedly the biggest game this time. When he had the chance to snatch the other incomplete Taoist scripture from the little child of the sacred island of 5 elements, he would be able to peek into the real mystery hidden in this scripture. When Lin Sun put away the 4 image dragon pillars and walked out of the dreamland, he saw Old Toad squatting on the ground, grinning from ear to ear. Obviously, the treasures left by the saint of the water ape tribe were also a great harvest for Old Toad. You are so seriously injured, and you still have the mood to think about treasures? Lin Sun couldn't help asking. But Old Toad said righteously, as a practitioner, we can be beheaded and bleed, but we can't lose treasures. Saying this, he let out a cry and grimaced in pain. It turned out that the injuries on his body were acting up, and he couldn't bear it. Lin Sun almost rolled his eyes. When he was plundering the treasures just now, this guy didn't seem to be unable to bear it, but now he was seriously injured and wailing. It could be seen how greedy this guy was. For the sake of treasures, he even forgot his injuries. Lin Sun couldn't help but admire this persistent and selfless spirit of greed. In the end, Lin Sun threw Old Toad into the wordless pagoda to recuperate, and his figure flashed, deciding to leave this area. This experience was simply thrilling. If Lin Sun hadn't finally obtained the art of cutting Tao, which allowed him to recover, the consequences would have been unimaginable. Although he had defeated Yu Shaosheng, Lin Lang, and the others in the end, Zhao Jingxian and Old Toad had been seriously injured and had to concentrate on healing their injuries. It would be difficult for them to recover in a short period of time. Thinking of everything that had happened these days, Lin Sun's heart was filled with an indescribable hatred. He had just passed the Thunder Tribulation and was hunted down by the strong cultivators from various clans, almost dying several times. Now that he had recovered, it was time to settle the score. At this moment, some of the nearby areas were in an uproar. Strong cultivators from various clans came one after another to kill Lin Sun and seize the good fortune. For the past half a month, whether in the Demon Saint's secret realm or outside the ultimate, it was boiling. Everyone's eyes were locked on this operation to kill Lin Sun. This human teenager is simply a monster. For the past half a month, he was obviously on the verge of collapse from being hunted, but he still managed to escape without being killed. He definitely can't hold on any longer. If there are no accidents, he will definitely die in the next few days. Didn't you see that many saints have already rushed ahead to take action? Lin Sun had survived 6 peerless thunder tribulations, and he had killed many strong cultivators along the way. This made the cultivators of all clans feel frightened and terrified, so no matter who it was, they didn't want him to continue living. If such a monster rose, it would be a disaster. In the future, no one would be able to stop him from advancing to the supreme way. Let's go. Success or failure will be decided in the next few days. Let's kill him together. The strong cultivators of all clans were full of murderous intent as they tracked Lin Sun's escape. They chased him all the way and were about to reach the swamp. We almost killed him last time. This time, we can't let him escape again. How dare he kill a clansman of the Sea Spirit clan? He must pay with his life. A young man with blue eyes and a feather robe said coldly. He was the saint of the Sea Spirit clan. Haha, last time we joined forces, but in the end, we still let him escape. I have to say, this human teenager is indeed a character. A man in a silver battle robe next to him laughed coldly. He was also a saint from the Silver Light clan. As they talked, they quickened their pace as they chased after Lin Sun. Now, everyone knew that the human teenager was seriously injured and on the verge of death. Even a ferocious beast could kill him, so it was the best time to kill him. In the distance, there were still many strong cultivators of different clans on the move. In their eyes, Lin Sun was already a lamb waiting to be slaughtered, and there was nothing to worry about. What they really needed to worry about was who could snatch away Lin Sun's opportunity first. Therefore, no matter who it was, they were all moving quickly without slacking off. But no one knew that Lin Sun, who in their eyes could only wait for death, had already become different from before. Chapter 586. In the boundless forest, Yu Shaosheng was sprinting. He'd reformed his body, but because his injuries were too severe, his face was ghastly pale. Damned little human bastard. One day, I'll take revenge with my own hands. Yu Shaosheng gritted his teeth. Ever since he'd started cultivating, he'd never suffered such a loss. When Lin Sun's spirit arrow pierced through his body, he'd almost thought he was going to lose his life. Even now, he still had lingering fear when he thought about it, and he hated Lin Sun even more. Suddenly, Yu Shaoxing noticed that there were many figures in the mountains far away. They were obviously not from the same force, but from different clans. Yu Shaoxing quickly realized that these were the forces that were chasing after Lin Sun. This made his heart shake, and a cold smile appeared on the corners of his mouth. He didn't warn them, but followed them quietly. These fellows are really stupid. If they knew that the human youth has already recovered and has become extremely powerful, I wonder what they would think. A twisted resentment arose in Yu Shaoxing's heart. My Dragon Whale clan was almost completely annihilated by that fellow. It's time for you bastards to have a taste of what's coming. Idiot! Go over there. I just saw that little human bastard appear. Suddenly, a loud shout resounded from afar. It was the Jade Scale clan saint, and he was pointing the way to some powerhouses. Yu Shaoxing couldn't help but be stunned, and then he understood. This fellow was obviously extremely sinister and malicious. He didn't warn Lin Sun that he'd become stronger, but wanted to make others do his dirty work. This fellow is even more ruthless than me. Yu Shaoxing laughed coldly. He continued moving stealthily, following behind. Not long after, Yu Shaoxing found a few more familiar faces. They were the Devil Elephant Clan Saint, the Dawnwood Clan Saint, and the Water Ape Clan Saint. Each of them had their own ulterior motives, and they didn't mention a word about Lin Sun becoming stronger. They obviously intended to watch coldly from the sidelines and watched the powerhouses of the various clans throw their lives away. Haha, it's getting more and more interesting. Yu Shaoxing laughed coldly. At this moment, a sense of revenge arose in his heart, and he even wished for nothing more than for Lin Sun to show off his might and annihilate all the powerhouses of the other clans. When they were close to the swamp, the scene suddenly became lively. Strong practitioners of various forces showed their traces and rushed to the swamp to find Lin Sun first. There was a great battle here. Quickly go and report. That human youth must be nearby. Many experts are overjoyed. They discovered traces of battle and began to send out signals to summon their clansmen. For a time, this area was covered in streaks that rained down while the glow of treasures fluttered about, and they were like numerous dazzling shooting stars whistling through the sky. The scene was extremely chaotic. This place was destined to fall into chaos. Over there, some sharp-eyed practitioners found Lin Sun's figure and immediately showed their excitement, because it meant a great fortune, and it was very likely to get a real Taoist scripture of the sage. In their eyes, after more than 10 days of hunting, Lin Sun had already run out of energy. Like a tiger with its teeth pulled out, he was no longer a threat and would die at any time. Moreover, there was a large patch of blood in this area. These strong practitioners thought that this was a sign that Lin Sun had lost too much blood and was about to lose his life. Only Yu Shaoxing had a strange expression. Besides feeling depressed, he also felt that it was absurd and ridiculous. Those bloodstains did not belong to that human youth. They were obviously the blood of the saints. Soon, a group of strong practitioners quickly separated and sealed off this area to prevent Lin Sun from escaping again. As for the saints of the Sea Spirit clan and the Silverlight clan, they had already rushed up, intending to forcefully intervene in this competition and get a share of the loot. Ha ha, kid, let's see where you can run this time. The saint of the Sea Spirit clan laughed immediately. His eyes were very unscrupulous, as if he was staring at prey, full of cruelty and complacency. The others laughed as well. Lin Sun stood there foolishly, obviously not having the strength to escape. This let them know that the time to harvest had come. In addition to sneering, some strong practitioners from different clans were also hateful, because Lin Sun had killed many of their clansmen a few days ago, which made them feel ashamed. Lin Sun was indeed standing there without moving. He wore broken and blood-stained clothes, and his aura was restrained. From the outside, it was impossible to find any clues at all. At this time, looking at some strong practitioners who were constantly rushing over, he was calculating in his heart when to make a move. Immediately, Lin Sun was slightly stunned. He found traces of Yu Shaoxing, the saint of the Jade Unicorn clan, the saint of the Li Mu clan, and others. However, these guys were hiding in the distance, extremely low-key, and did not dare to come close at all. Didn't they mention anything about me? Lin Sun's lips curled into an imperceptible strange curve, and he immediately understood their thoughts. Lin Sun could not help but sigh with emotion. These guys looked decent, but he had never thought that they were so insidious and black-bellied. It seems that you are all ready to die. Lin Sun thought so in his heart, but he said calmly, "That's good too. It saves me the trouble of settling accounts with you one by one." Everyone was stunned. Was this guy crazy? It seemed that he knew that he could not escape this disaster, and had become crazy in his desperation. Otherwise, how could he talk nonsense like this? Humph! It's useless to pretend to be calm. This time, no matter what you say, I won't give you a chance to escape. The saint of the Sea Spirit clan sneered. Hey, this guy is really interesting. Why are you still pretending at this time? Do you really think we don't know that you are about to run out of oil? Many strong practitioners also sneered, their eyes full of mockery and pity. In the distance, Yu Shaoxing's lips twitched fiercely, and he could not help showing some pity in his eyes. These guys were really stupid. You're all here. Why don't you start? Could it be that he's the same as me, waiting for everyone to arrive before starting the battle? Lin Sun looked surprised. His attitude immediately made many people laugh. A man who was about to die dared to despise them like this. It was extremely funny. A group of strong practitioners could not restrain themselves and immediately rushed forward. However, they were stopped by another group of strong practitioners halfway, and a conflict broke out between them. They all wanted to be the first to kill Lin Sun and seize his good fortune. Friends of the Sea Spirit clan, we found this evil creature first. First come, first served, right? The faces of those strong practitioners were gloomy. This boy has enmity with our clan. If you want to kill him, it should be us who do it. The Saint of the Sea Spirit clan said unhappily. In an instant, the atmosphere was tense. Both sides confronted each other, and no one gave way. The smell of gunpowder was thick. In their eyes, Lin Sun was like a piece of fat meat that everyone wanted to eat first. They could not allow others to touch it. Yu Shaoxing's expression became more and more strange. He could not bear to watch any longer. Did these idiots really think that human youth was a piece of meat on a chopping board? Lin Sun was also a little stunned, and there was a strange look in his eyes. This scene was seen by many strong practitioners, and they immediately regarded it as a kind of contempt and provocation. What kind of look was that? No matter how they looked at it, it seemed to be pity and ridicule. Lin Sun was not nervous at all, which was too arrogant and presumptuous. Little bastard, don't play dumb. I'll chop you first. A strong practitioner shouted. As he spoke, he stepped into the void, swung a giant axe, and chopped at Lin Sun. Impatient, you are doomed to die a wrong death. Lin Sun sighed softly and waved his sleeve. With a flash of light, the strong practitioner's body exploded in the air before he had time to approach, turning into a rain of blood. What? All the strong practitioners present were shocked. Wasn't this guy at the end of his life? How could he still be so strong? Don't be scared by him. This guy is already an arrow at the end of its flight. He can't hold on any longer. Didn't you see how he behaved when he was chased last time? His body was almost smashed. There is nothing to be afraid of. The Saint of the Sea Spirit clan reminded coldly. I didn't expect that you could see through it. Lin Sun looked surprised. Damn, why do I feel that this guy also did it on purpose? In the distance, Yu Shaoxing looked at Lin Sun's surprised look and wanted to rush forward and smash his hateful face. It was too insidious. Cut the crap. Hand over your fortune, and I'll give you a quick death. The Saint of the Sea Spirit clan shouted. What quick death? Let's kill him first. Another group of strong practitioners couldn't hold back and began to take action. More and more practitioners came, and time could not be delayed at all. At the same time, the strong practitioners of the Sea Spirit clan were also unwilling to be outdone. They made a brazen move. The light was boiling, and the secret method shrouded the front. In this case, I'll send you guys to hell first. At this moment, Lin Sun stopped smiling, and suddenly a blazing brilliance rushed out of his body. His aura suddenly became terrifying to the extreme, shocking people. Everyone's heart palpitated, and their hair stood on end. This was an instinctive reaction in the face of danger. What's going on? Didn't you say that he was going to die? Is he at the end of his life? A strong practitioner screamed. Boom! Lin Sun was surrounded by dense Tao, like a field, releasing a clear halo, sacred and transcendent. Puff! In an instant, all the strong practitioners who rushed overexploded. Their bodies were torn apart, and in the terrible light of Tao, they turned into a rain of blood. They died on the spot before they could even get close to Lin Sun. This kind of peerless sharpness shocked the whole audience. Every strong practitioner was so scared that their scalps were numb, and they couldn't believe it. Even the secret techniques and spirit artifacts that covered the heavens and the earth were completely destroyed, and they transformed into a multicolored rain of light that scattered down in a peerlessly gorgeous manner. In this rain of light, Lin Sun stepped out. His figure was illusory, and he stepped on an ice dragon with an indescribable, disdainful power. Why was this happening? Wasn't he about to die? Many people trembled all over, and their hair stood on end. Their hearts were terrified to the extreme. How could they resist such a peerless divine power? Come on, let's do it together. This guy is not pretending. He has been pretending to be weak all the time. All the strong practitioners roared, and their eyes almost popped out of their sockets. Until now, they finally realized that they had been fooled. However, it was too late. Lin Sun's body was blazing. He shuttled through the void and went straight forward. In an instant, a bloody storm was set off. Chapter 587. In an instant, the area was filled with screams. Many strong people had no time to react and were killed on the spot. Their bodies turned into waterfalls of blood and dyed the void red. It was too terrible. He wanted to kill all his enemies by himself. Indeed, no one expected that Lin Sun wasn't deliberately mystifying or putting on airs. He didn't even conceal his intention from the beginning to the end. It was ridiculous that they had always regarded Lin Sun as a piece of meat on the chopping board without any threat. When Lin Sun showed his peerless spirit, they were all stunned, frightened, and angry. Rumble. Lin Sun's fists were powerful and unparalleled. Wherever he passed, there was a rain of blood. He was invincible. For more than 10 days, he had been chased by these guys all the way. He was almost killed several times. Now, Lin Sun had completely recovered and his combat power was at the top of the same realm. He could disdain all enemies. Of course, he wouldn't bear it anymore. He began to counterattack to vent his inner hatred. Kill! The Holy Son of Sea Spirit Clan roared and took out a blue spiritual sword. Like setting off a vast ocean, it rolled back and covered Lin Sun. However, Lin Sun didn't even look at it. His figure flashed and avoided the blow. Then he spread out his figure and chased after the other strong people of Sea Spirit Clan. In just a moment, more than a dozen strong people of Sea Spirit Clan were killed. Their blood dyed the ground red, which was shocking. The Holy Son of Sea Spirit Clan was so angry that he almost went crazy. He attacked again and again, but Lin Sun didn't fight with him at all. Lin Sun flashed like a ghost and killed the Holy Son of Sea Spirit Clan and other clansmen of Sea Spirit Clan. Coward, do you dare to fight with me? The Holy Son of Sea Spirit Clan roared. Lin Sun didn't pay attention to him at all, as if he didn't take him seriously at all. Later, the remaining strong people of Sea Spirit Clan realized that something was wrong and hid beside the Holy Sun in horror. Then Lin Sun changed his target and went to kill other strong people present. At this moment, Lin Sun was really too strong. He was like a peerless blade, conquering the whole field. No one could bear his edge. For a time, this area was filled with shrill cries, furious roars, and shouts. They were mixed with scarlet red blood and shattered corpses, and they transformed into a horrifying and bloody scene. How was this a battle? This was clearly a massacre. This fellow is simply a demon. Yu Shaosheng, who was hiding far away, felt his heart palpitate as he watched and drew in a breath of cold air. It wasn't just him. Even the Hearts of the Dawnwood clan's holy daughter, the Jade Unicorn clan's holy son, the Demonic Elephant clan's holy son, and the other peerless figures felt as if they'd fallen into an icy pit. They were still thinking whether they should take this opportunity to attack Lin Sun when he was unprepared. But now it would seem like if he did that, then it would be no different than giving his life away. This human youth was too ferocious. Evil creature, do you only dare to attack the weak? The Sea Spirit Clan's saint was so angry that his eyes were about to spit fire. In just a short period of time, another group of Sea Spirit Clan's powerhouses had been killed. How could he not be angry? What maddened him most was that Lin Sun had been avoiding him from beginning to end and didn't confront them head-on at all, which made him so angry that he almost vomited blood. When had he ever been ignored like this? He obviously didn't put him in his eyes. Coward, coward, coward. You've lost the face of your human clan. No matter how strong a despicable person like you is, you're just a trash who bullies the weak and fears the strong. The Sea Spirit Clan's saint roared sternly. Unfortunately, Lin Sun still paid no attention to him. He fought with all his strength and didn't intend to let any of his enemies go. His figure drifted erratically as he carried out a massacre in this area. In the end, many powerhouses collapsed. They realized that Lin Sun had really risen and wasn't at the end of his rope, but had recovered to his peak combat strength. Coupled with witnessing Lin Sun's bloody and cold slaughter and seeing powerhouses being killed on the spot like chickens and dogs, all of this made their souls almost leave their bodies. They cried out in terror and rushed in all directions, fleeing in all directions, because they were all shocked and scared silly. Lin Sun's power couldn't be stopped at all, so how could they dare to go against him? You're all here. Do you still want to leave? Lin Sun's voice was indifferent and not very loud, but it was filled with a cold and murderous intent, which made the powerhouses in the field even more terrified. Boom! With Lin Sun at the center, divine radiance erupted. It was dazzling like a river of stars and blazing to the extreme, and it was like boundless volcanoes colliding before exploding. The terrifying fluctuation of divine radiance covered the heavens and the earth, and it swept towards the surroundings and enveloped this area. Pooh! Pooh! In an instant, countless powerhouses weren't able to resist in time before they were obliterated by the divine radiance, and they transformed into a pool of flesh and blood that died at various places. Blood flowed into rivers and dyed the heavens and the earth red. The horrifying bloody scene almost caused the distant Yu Shaoshang to be suffocated, and he didn't hesitate at all to flee as well. At the same time, the top figures of the Jade Unicorn Clan, Devil Elephant Clan, and Darkwood Clan had chosen to temporarily avoid the brunt of Lin Sun's attack and fled far away. Going against Lin Sun at this moment was simply no different than courting death. The battlefield was suffused with smoke, and it was a scene of disorder. The strike from before had annihilated a few tens of powerhouses, yet only a few dozen or so remain now. Besides them, the other powerhouses had either fled or were lying in pools of blood. Corpses piled up, and it was like purgatory. This, the expression of the Holy Son of the Sea Spirit Clan, changed constantly. He was also shocked and stimulated by the bloody scene in front of him, and he sobered up from his anger. It was also at this moment that he finally realized that the reason why Lin Sun didn't confront him head-on before was not because he was afraid, but because he wanted to seize all the time to kill those powerhouses. Now, why don't you shout? Lin Sun's black eyes looked over from afar, and his gaze was as sharp as lightning, which made the Holy Son of the Sea Spirit Clan feel a stabbing pain. Don't be arrogant. You've killed so many powerhouses. Even if you can leave the secret land of monsters alive, so what? The Holy Son of the Sea Spirit Clan took a deep breath and said coldly, "Those big shots waiting outside will never let go of you. An executioner whose hands are stained with blood. That's a matter for the future. You don't have to worry about it. What I want to ask is, why don't you shout?" Lin Sun looked calm, but his words were like a knife, which was regarded as a kind of humiliation and contempt by the Holy Son of the Sea Spirit Clan. The Holy Son's face was livid, and his chest rose and fell rapidly. He was so angry that his teeth almost broke. "Come on, don't you want to fight with me? There are not many people left now. Let's take some time and have some fun." As Lin Sun said, he swooped forward. But to Lin Sun's surprise, just as he moved, the Holy Son of the Sea Spirit Clan fled without looking back, and he even crushed some kind of teleportation talisman, which made him disappear in an instant. Lin Sun couldn't help but be stunned. This guy shouted so fiercely just now, and he thought he would be proud and unyielding. Who would have thought that he would run away before the fight started? The remaining more than a dozen powerhouses on the scene had long been scared to tremble. When they saw the Holy Son of the Sea Spirit Clan flee so recklessly, they immediately felt desperate, as if the support in their hearts had suddenly collapsed. Lin Sun didn't show any mercy. He attacked coldly and killed them all. After that, he didn't even spare a glance. His entire body was coiled with brilliant, clear radiance as he strode forward with large strides, and he didn't conceal his tracks like he did in the past. After being chased for so long, he was going to launch a counterattack. Run. From that day on, wherever Lin Sun passed, there were sounds of people fleeing for their lives. There was no way to stop Lin Sun's pace. It was too terrible. Like a devil, he walked on mountains of corpses and seas of blood. He was only one person, but he chased the heroes of all clans and made them constantly flee. They deserved to be unlucky. How excited and complacent they were when they chased him all the way. They didn't expect that Lin Sun would turn around and start to chase them. The impermanence of life was reflected incisively and vividly at this time. All the powerhouses were defeated and fled, leaving behind corpses one after another. Usually, they looked down on others with a very high attitude, but now they were like stray dogs in a panic. Lin Sun seemed very ruthless. He was calm and unparalleled along the way. Ice Drake's steps gave him unparalleled speed. Almost all the powerhouses who were targeted by him could not survive. The news spread very fast. It didn't take long for the whole Demon Saint's secret land to be shocked. When they learned all this, all the powerhouses were shocked. Where did this young devil come from? How could he be so terrible? They were in the same realm, but he was like a king, sweeping away all his opponents with unparalleled majesty. There was no way to defeat him at all. Unless there was someone else who had set foot on the extreme way, no one could stop Lin Sun's pace. Let's go. Still chasing after him? Don't you know how terrifying that young man is? That guy is a devil, invincible. If he continues to grow like this, who can balance him in the future? If he sets foot on the divine path, I'm afraid the whole world will tremble. All the powerhouses of all clans were running for their lives. They had no choice. Seeing this, some practitioners who didn't know what was going on were all stunned. Especially when they learned of Lin Sun's bloody record along the way. They were so shocked that they turned around and fled, not daring to stay at all. Although the Demon Saint's secret land was terrible, as long as they were careful, they could avoid many forbidden dangers. But if they met this young man, they would absolutely be courting death. It's impossible. So many powerhouses were dispatched, but they couldn't defeat him alone. Some people didn't believe it. They didn't believe it, but no one went to explain anything. They were all busy running for their lives. Who had the mood to argue? Did they want to live or not? Finally, when he killed his way out of the mountains, Lin Sun stopped. Because the other areas were unknown and contained unpredictable dangers, he didn't dare to act rashly. He wouldn't forget the golden-winged rock and the unparalleled serpent he had seen in the desert. They were both terrifying existences in the Demon Saint's secret land. This time, the powerhouses of all clans suffered heavy losses. No one knew how many of them were killed. On the other hand, the experts that escaped felt fortunate, as if they'd survived a calamity. Being swept by a human youth was simply like a nightmare, and it left too many shadows in their hearts. At the same time, outside the Ultimate Land, there was a monstrous storm. Chapter 588. The mountains reeked of blood. Broken corpses could be seen everywhere. The ground was dyed red with blood. From time to time, fierce beasts would be attracted and devour the corpses mercilessly. How many overmatches had died in this battle? It was impossible to count. But Lin Sun's unstoppable killing was like a nightmare that many overmatches would never forget for the rest of their lives. Oh no, that young man didn't die. He's slaughtering the overmatches of all clans. It's terrible. He's like a devil. His hands are stained with blood. He can't be defeated. Outside the ultimate, there were angry and panicked cries on the magnificent sea surface. For a moment, all the clans waiting near the ultimate were shocked. They almost couldn't believe their eyes. A young man who survived the Thunder Retribution had been chased all the way and was about to die. How could the result be reversed? What had happened to him that allowed him to defeat all the overmatches and counterattack all the way? Those children of my clan are all dead. Immediately, a big shot roared fiercely. He was so angry that he spat out a mouthful of blood and almost fainted. This was Tian Sha Granny of the Bloody Lion clan. All the overmatches of the Bloody Lion clan who entered the secret land of Demon had been annihilated. Only Lin Lang, the saintess, was left. Who would have thought that even Saint Lin Lang would meet with a calamity this time? Only a strand of her divine soul was teleported back. Even the fortune she obtained from the Five Elements Sacred Island was lost. How could the Tian Sha Granny not be furious? Damn it, this little bastard of the human clan is too arrogant. No matter who he is, we can't let him leave alive. Another ancestor-level figure roared, almost going mad. Their clan situation was practically no different from the Bloodline clans, and they were almost completely wiped out. Ah, damn it. I can't wait to kill my way into the secret land of Demon and kill that heartless young man of the human clan. Damn it, when did our clan suffer such humiliation? It's unforgivable that we were almost annihilated by a young man of the human clan. In the field, there were roars and roars that shook the world. All the clans looked at each other in horror and confusion. Not only was a ferocious human youth not killed, he single-handedly swept through the crowd and set off an endless rain of blood. As soon as this news spread, it simply angered the gods and humans alike, and it caused the powers of the various clans to be unable to remain calm and were in an uproar. Who would dare to believe it? He had just advanced to the Grotto Heaven realm, yet he was already so terrifying and heaven-defying. Who would dare to believe this? But this news was absolutely true, because on that day, the soul altars built by all clans were running almost all the time, moving out batch after batch of souls, all of which are the core figures of various clans killed by Lin Sun alone. Especially when Saintess Linlang appeared, it caused an uproar in the audience. This meant that Lin Sun's current combat effectiveness had the power to suppress and kill saints. This sea region could no longer calm down. The great figures were all stamping with rage, and there were a few great figures who were endlessly bewildered. They began to make speculations. It was a complete mess, all of them shocked by this bloody storm. This young man survived the 6 peerless thunder tribulations, which can be said to be rare since ancient times. Now, he can launch a desperate counterattack and sweep away all the heroes when he is seriously injured and dying. I'm afraid he has set foot on the legendary road of cultivation. There was an old ancestor who speculated so. Otherwise, it wouldn't make sense at all. Is it the most powerful road in the ancient legend? It's impossible. This road is against the heaven and Tao. I don't know how many peerless talents died on this road. How could a young man of the human clan achieve this? Many great figures didn't believe it. Even if it is the road to the top, he has just advanced to the Grotto Heaven realm, and it is impossible for him to have such a strong combat effectiveness. There must be something strange about it. Some old antiques were keenly aware of the abnormality. The young man of the human clan was so ferocious that he seemed to ignore the barrier of realms. Some old strong practitioners in the Grotto Heaven realm were killed by him, which simply broke the common understanding since ancient times. It seemed too abnormal. No matter what Tao he cultivates, such a scourge that angers both humans and gods must be eliminated. This was the voice of many great figures. The strong practitioners of their clans had suffered heavy losses, which was a great shame and a deep hatred. How could they tolerate Lin Sun to continue to live? Only Elder Gao Yang seemed to be very silent and didn't say a word from beginning to end. This time, only the descendants of the Holy Land of Spirit Treasure and some retainers of the human clan entered the secret realm of Demon Saint. This made Elder Gao Yang very sure that the young man of the human clan, who caused great indignation and resentment, must be from his side. He even suspected that the young man of the human clan was the retainer named Lin Xian. However, he didn't dare to believe it, because he was also a little confused. The young man's combat effectiveness was too ferocious and against the natural order. If he was really Lin Xian, it would be incredible. After all, Lin Xian was not a practitioner of the ancient Desolation territory. He just came from the Xiao Empire, a young man who grew up in the barren land of the mortal world. How could such a young man have such a talent and foundation? Even it was very likely that he had set foot on the most powerful and peerless cultivation path. Soon, Elder Gao Yang couldn't think anymore, because many great figures were glaring at him angrily. They were all threatening and asking about the background of the young man of the human clan. They even openly expressed that they would not let the young man leave the Soul Oblivion Sea alive. This gave Elder Gao Yang a headache, but he had a strange sense of pride in his heart. Anyway, the young man was from the human clan. It was a great thing that he could defeat the strong practitioners of other clans by himself. If this news spread to the ancient Desolation territory, it would even make the big forces of the human clan applaud and be proud of him. After all, the ancient Desolation territory was a vast world where tens of thousands of clans fought for supremacy. Although the human clan was strong, It was only ordinary among the tens of thousands of clans. There was still a big gap between them and some clans with horrible backgrounds. Fortunately, the Demon Saint's secret land won't disappear for some time. I just hope that the young man keeps a low profile and doesn't make such a scene again. Otherwise, I'm afraid that even the name of the Holy Land of Spirit Treasure can't protect him. Elder Gao Yang murmured in his heart, with a complicated look on his face. The Demon Saint's secret land. Lin Sun stopped in front of the blood-stained mountain and didn't continue to chase. On the one hand, it was because he had consumed too much of his physical strength at the moment, and, on the other hand, he had a deep fear of other areas. This was the Demon Saint's secret land, full of unknown and dangers. In contrast, this blood-stained mountain was relatively safe, but it was hard to say for other areas. Finally, Lin Sun turned around and returned to the mountain. He had just broken through, and he had just resolved the chain of heaven's punishment. His top priority was to practice hard to refine and consolidate his cultivation. At the same time, he also needed to further think about his own path. After all, he had encountered too many accidents and setbacks, and experienced several life-and-death situations. He must calm down and explore his own path. Swish! In a messy mountain, Lin Sun's figure flickered, looking for a safe place for quiet cultivation. However, just a moment later, Lin Sun suddenly stopped in front of a collapsed mountain. His black eyes, like cold lightning, suddenly cut through the void and glanced into the distance. In that instant just now, he clearly sensed a wisp of faintly discernible killing intent, but when he carefully probed it, he came up empty-handed. Lin Sun couldn't help but frown. Was it an illusion? Without thinking too much, he continued to move forward. After half an hour, he stopped in front of a clear lake. The lake was vast, enshrouded in milky white mist and steaming water. When Lin Sun arrived here, he jumped into the lake and began to wash the bloodstains on his body. In the previous battle, he was bathed in blood and stained with too many enemies' blood. Whoosh, soaking in the cold lake, Lin Sun felt much relaxed, as if the killing and bloody aura all over his body had been washed away, and his heart was calm and ethereal. Before long, he walked out of the lake, put on a set of clean clothes, tore off a weed, twisted it into a straw rope, and tied his black hair behind his head at will. At this moment, he was dressed in a moon-white robe, with a handsome face and clear and deep black eyes. Standing in front of the misty lake, he exuded a transcendent, ethereal, and unearthly aura. Without looking carefully, no one could associate him with the ferocious teenager who set off a bloody storm. Before long, Lin Sun caught two fat, golden-whiskered fish from the lake, set up a bonfire, and began to roast them. The roast fish was soon cooked, giving off a tempting fragrance. Lin Sun looked at the lake in the distance while smacking his mouth and eating the golden and tender fish. He was indescribably comfortable, like a traveler who was having a picnic. When dusk fell, Lin Sun stood up and stretched himself comfortably. It seems that the assassin really left. Lin Sun thought for a while and was ready to leave. Whoosh! Just as this thought came to his mind, a cold light flashed silently in the void and suddenly stabbed Lin Sun's head from behind at an incredible speed. This was a touch of sword intent. It appeared suddenly, silently, and incredibly fast. If it were other practitioners, they might not be able to notice it at all and have no time to react at all, because this touch of sword intent was really amazing and rare. It was accurate, clean, direct, sharp, and terrible to the extreme. However, its aura had been completely restrained. As a result, it seemed to be completely silent, like the shadow of death that had inadvertently descended and shrouded them. Puff! Lin Sun's head was directly pierced, but strangely, his figure disappeared in an instant like a bubble. It was just an afterimage. The reason was that Lin Sun's movement was so fast that he had dodged the sword intent before it hit him. Oh no! Suddenly, a cry of surprise rang out in the distance. At the same time, Lin Sun appeared and punched the void fiercely. Chapter 589. Sorry, I made a mistake in the last chapter. Grandma Tianxia was the ancestor of the Dragon Whale clan. The original text should be replaced with the ancestor of the Bloodline clan. The void collapsed with a punch. With Lin Sun's current fighting capacity, he could kill ordinary Tao Insight Realm cultivators with a casual punch, let alone at this moment with all his strength. The void was smashed like a piece of paper. The chaotic and violent airflow raged, which was a terrifying scene. Whoosh! However, in the place where the void was broken, a vague figure had already rushed out and narrowly avoided this fatal blow. But even so, he was still hit by the fist force. He staggered and almost fell into the void. At this time, Lin Sun finally saw his opponent clearly. It was an assassin covered in a black fighting suit. He was thin and slender, and his appearance could not be seen clearly. He was surrounded by an obscure breath that could block all perception and investigation. From a distance, he seemed to be just a shadow, extremely vague. "I know you. Last time on the treasure ship, you assassinated me. Unfortunately, you failed at that time." Lin Sun looked calm, but his black eyes were full of cold light. He did remember the breath of the assassin. Last time, he was almost killed by the assassin. This was an unforgettable memory. How could Lin Sun dare to forget it? "Tell me, who exactly are you?" Although Su Xingfeng hates me among the successors of the spiritual treasure Holy Land, there's no need for him to hide and deal with me. Lin Sun's eyes flashed with cold lightning, and he firmly locked on the assassin. But do you want me to capture you and reveal your true face?" As he spoke, his body was surging with blazing divine light. Tao runes circulated, and his momentum rose to the extreme. As long as the assassin dared to show the slightest intention of escaping, he would attack him with all his strength. "Give me the Taoist scripture of the sage, or the pagoda made of the divine iron of creation. Maybe I can give you a satisfactory answer." The black-clothed man's voice was sharp and dry, which was obviously a disguise. Lin Sun immediately understood, and his black eyes surged with cold light. "The reason why you attacked me on the treasure ship was probably for the pagoda in my hand." "Yes." The black-clothed man looked very calm and unscrupulous. It seemed that he was not afraid of letting Lin Sun know his intention at all. "Are you stalling for time?" Lin Sun suddenly asked. "Aren't you the same?" The man in black asked. Lin Sun suddenly smiled and stepped forward. With a clang, the broken sword swept out and Lin Sun attacked with RFS. Now, Lin Sun understood that the three unique skills of Tianyuan saberplay had their own mysteries, and there was no difference in strength between them. For example, reaching for the stars paid attention to the element of surprise and shock. Once hit, one would suffer a disaster. On the other hand, the moon-class style was a type of divine and vast energy that transcended into nothingness. So long as one came into contact with it, it would produce a type of terrifying lethality that seemed like purification. As for the burning sun style, it was very simple. It was tyrannical and destructive. It was like the destructive power released by the burning of the sun. It was an extremely tyrannical, killing power. At this moment, Lin Sun used RFS. Needless to say, he wanted to kill his opponent by surprise and shake his mind so that he couldn't escape. Boom! In an instant, it was like a group of stars had fallen and eternal night had descended. It was inconceivably swift, and it seemed like a nightmare had suddenly assaulted them. However, the strange thing was that the figures of the men in black suddenly turned into hundreds and thousands of them, densely packed like black lightning. Some of them took the initiative to attack Lin Sun, and some fled in all directions. Looking from a distance, the figures of the men in black were everywhere, which was a terrifying scene. Boom! The earth-shattering destructive power swept across, and those men in black who rushed up were annihilated almost instantly. Some of them avoided the attack and continued to attack Lin Sun. The most bizarre thing was that some of the men in black had already fled to the distance. The scene suddenly became extremely chaotic. Originally, there was only one enemy, but now there were thousands of them. How could he fight? Thousands of bodies. What secret method was this? Lin Sun was shocked. It was the first time for him to see such an amazing secret method. It was impossible to tell which one was the real man in black, just from the appearance. As the saying goes, true and false, illusory and illusory. It was so mysterious and unpredictable that it could deceive the world. The world roared. Lin Sun killed with all his strength. The dazzling saber light swept across with starlight, and groups of men in black were easily killed and turned into light rain and disappeared. It turns out that these doppelgangers are illusory and don't have the same fighting capacity as his real body. Lin Sun felt relaxed and spread his spiritual power to cover the whole field. He carefully perceived and identified them, but the final result shocked him. Whether it was the doppelgangers or the real body, it was impossible to distinguish the real from the fake, just from the breath. Lin Xian, the next time we meet, it will be your death. The sharp and dry voice of the man in black echoed between heaven and earth, as if it was made by thousands of people, and it was impossible to determine the real source. Lin Sun's eyebrows became gloomy, until he killed all the men in black in the field. He found that these were all doppelgangers, and his real body had already escaped. What kind of secret method is this? How can it be so strange and wonderful? Lin Sun frowned and felt a little unwilling. The men in black had assassinated him twice and escaped safely both times. The most difficult thing was that the man also mastered a secret method that could make thousands of doppelgangers, so it was almost difficult to kill him, unless one could see through his real body at a glance. All this also sounded the alarm for Lin Sun. He realized that there were countless geniuses in the world, and there were also countless unimaginable, mysterious cultivation methods. He must not take it lightly. Whoosh! Soon, Lin Sun got rid of the distracting thoughts and looked to the other side, with an intriguing smile on his lips. You two have been watching for so long. It's time to show up, isn't it? Lin Sun said softly. There was a low and ordinary hill, shrouded in thick white mist, without any special breath fluctuations. But as early as after being assassinated by the men in black, Lin Sun was keenly aware that there were two figures hiding in the hill. If it were in the past, Lin Sun would definitely not be able to detect them, because the two figures were covered by a ray of treasure light, covering all their breaths. The strange thing was that the treasure light seemed to be integrated with the heaven and earth, turning into the most common breath of heaven and earth, which was difficult to be detected at all. But now Lin Sun was different. After reaching Tao Insight Realm, his spiritual power had also transformed, and he had begun to practice the second realm of meditating magic, Changing Moon. A divine moon hung in his sea of consciousness and emitted great light. It was like he was ascending a tower, and it caused the perception of his soul to undergo a qualitative transformation, allowing him to detect fine details that he couldn't detect in the past. It was precisely because of this that when he noticed the existence of those two figures, he very naturally thought that they were in cahoots with the black-clothed man. If not, Lin Sun would not have delayed at all just now, and directly went to kill the men in black without talking nonsense and delay. At this moment, the men in black had already fled, but the two figures didn't move for a long time, and they didn't intend to escape, which made Lin Sun feel a little strange, and he realized that there seemed to be some omissions in his previous speculation. I didn't expect that you, Lin Xian, are a top figure who hides his strength. What surprises me most is that a figure like you grew up in the mortal world, which is really unimaginable. With a sigh, a child in colorful clothes walked out from a low hill. He wore a bright silver necklace, and his expression was innocent and adorable. It was Wen Xiang, the successor of the Holy Land of spiritual treasure. Beside him, there was an extremely handsome young man in a red robe and a white jade belt around his waist. With his hands behind his back, he had a cold and proud bearing, and a pair of pupils were surrounded by blazing flames. He was Su Xingfen. So it's you two. Lin Sun was stunned, and then he said with a faint smile, "Let me guess, are you here for the pagoda or the so-called Tao scriptures of a sage?" On the treasure ship, Lin Sun might be afraid of these two people because of Elder Gao Yang, but now, there was no need to worry about them. You're wrong. We come from the same camp, and you're a friend of senior sister Jingxian. How could we harm you? Wen Xiang shouted loudly, as if he was wronged. Oh, it seems that I have gauged the heart of a gentleman with my own mean measure. Lin Sun looked indifferent. Not really. We also heard that a teenager of the human clan was being chased, so we immediately came to help. But we didn't expect that the teenager was you. What's more, we didn't expect that you could defeat the overmatches of the other clans. Wen Xiang said with a smile, and his face was full of amazement. If we had known that you were so powerful, we would not have treated you as a retainer. Lin Sun would not treat this guy as a little kid. Wen Xiang seemed young, but he cultivated in the form of a boy because he had cultivated a secret method called Yang Blood Refining Method. In fact, he was a genius who had cultivated for many years. When it came to scheming and wisdom, he was not inferior to those old foxes at all. So that's how it is. Then I thank the two of you for your kindness. Lin Sun was calm and didn't deliberately expose them. After all, he entered the secret realm of demon saint in the name of Holy Land of Spiritual Treasure. In addition, he had a relationship with Zhao Jingxian. If it was not necessary, Lin Sun would not completely fall out with him. By the way, I wonder who the black-clothed man was. Lin Sun suddenly asked. I don't know. Wen Xiang shook his head quickly, and his immature face was full of confusion. Lin Sun smiled, showing his snow-white teeth. In that case, I'll leave first. As soon as he finished speaking, his figure flashed and floated away. He left without any hesitation. This guy should have guessed something. Wen Xiang murmured, with a touch of coldness in his eyes. From the beginning to the end, Su Xingfeng didn't speak. He was cold and indifferent. Seeing Lin Sun's figure disappear, he said, Just now, I wanted to fight. Chapter 590. Then why didn't you make a move? Wen Xiang was stunned. Su Xingfeng glanced at him and didn't say anything. However, Wen Xiang instantly understood, and his expression was complicated. He knew why Su Xingfeng didn't dare to make a move when he thought about Lin Sun's performance after overcoming the 6th level of the Heavenly Tribulation. That guy was too powerful. He had slaughtered the experts of various races until their blood flowed like a river. He was unparalleled, and even chosen ones did not dare to face him head-on. Under such circumstances, even if he was Su Xingfeng, he would not dare to act rashly. Wen Xiang couldn't help but sigh with emotion when he thought of this. Indeed, after Lin Xian advanced to the Tao Insight realm, he's not like before. Even I feel inexplicable pressure when facing him. Have you heard of the strongest absolute path of cultivation in the ancient times? Su Xingfeng suddenly said. Wen Xiang was instantly moved. You mean Lin Xian has actually stepped on as such a path? Isn't it said that it's impossible for such a path to appear in the current times? 100 years later, an unprecedented calamity of the Great Way will erupt, and a great battle will begin. Under such circumstances, it's not impossible for the absolute path to appear again. Su Xingfeng's expression was cold with a trace of seriousness. But I never expected that a little cultivator from the mortal world would be able to touch this path. It's really unbelievable. As far as he knew, the absolute path to cultivation was a general term that represented the strongest path of cultivation. It was extremely rare in the ancient times, and very few people could step onto it. Since Lin Xian was able to step onto this path, it was undoubtedly too terrifying and heaven-defying. Since it's like this, Senior Brother Su, should we give up on the plan to seize that pagoda? Wen Xiang's expression changed indeterminately. Give up? Su Xingfeng shook his head, and flames flickered in his eyes. That's a pagoda made of divine iron of creation. How can we give up just like that? Wen Xiang's eyes narrowed. What does Senior Brother Su plan to do? Su Xingfeng said, Do you recognize the black-clothed man who tried to assassinate Lin Xian? If I'm not wrong, that fellow is definitely Senior Brother Xiao Ran. Wen Xiang's heart skipped a beat, and his expression changed. Could it be Senior Brother Gong Sun Yu as well? According to what I know, Senior Brother Xiao Ran is currently guarding the Violet Cloud Divine Mountain, waiting for the demonic Saint's Land of Fortune to appear. He shouldn't have come here just to deal with Lin Xian, right? Gong Sun Yu? Haha, he doesn't know the myriad transformations Tao Physique Sutra. Su Xingfeng sneered. Myriad transformations Tao Body Scripture. Wen Xiang's expression changed abruptly as he cried out involuntarily. Didn't you personally prove that this ancient ultimate technique doesn't exist a few years ago? Several years ago, in a forbidden area of the holy land of spiritual treasures, it was rumored that a long-lost supreme technique, the myriad transformations Taoist scripture, had suddenly appeared in the world and was obtained by a disciple of the sect, causing a great sensation at that time. However, in the end, no one knew which disciple obtained this lost skill. Later on, it was the headmaster of the Holy Land of Spiritual Treasures who personally stepped forward to quell this disturbance. It's not that it doesn't exist, but the origins of this ultimate technique are too great. Once it's exposed, it's bound to attract countless troubles. So, those big shots unanimously decided to seal off this information for the sake of protecting Xiaoran. They don't want him to attract the covetous eyes of others because of this ultimate technique. Su Xingfeng's eyes flickered with a cold light. Originally, I was also suspicious, but I couldn't be sure. However, after witnessing the secret technique executed by the black-clothed man just now, I'm completely convinced that it's definitely the myriad transformations Taoist scripture. Only such an ultimate technique can allow one to transform into a myriad of forms without any flaws. It's truly miraculous and unparalleled. When Su Xingfeng spoke up to this point, he gritted his teeth and said, "Do you know why I've always been afraid of Xiaoran? It's because this fellow is too shrewd. He's usually like a wild crane that doesn't care about worldly affairs. But only I know that in the entire holy land of spiritual treasures, his schemes are the most terrifying." His voice carried envy, fear, and even indescribable hatred. Senior Brother Su, even if that black-clothed man executed the myriad transformations Taoist scripture, it seems to be unable to prove that he's Senior Brother Xiaoran, right? When Xiang still didn't believe it. In his impression, Xiaoran had always been warm, modest, and made others feel as if they were bathing in the spring breeze. He was like a flowing cloud in the horizon, and he was indescribably aloof and broad-minded. This caused him to be unable to call Xiaoran a scheming person. You may know a person for a long time, but you don't know his true nature. There are some things that I'm unable to tell you clearly, but I can tell you with certainty that the black-clothed man that assassinated Lin Xian is definitely Xiaoran. Su Xingfeng couldn't be bothered to explain. But what does this have to do with us seizing the pagoda in Lin Xian's possession? When Xiang asked while staring blankly at him. Cooperate. Su Xingfeng replied very directly. We'll go look for Xiaoran and cooperate with him. I believe that for the sake of seizing the fortune in Lin Xian's possession, he will surely not refuse. But what if Senior Brother Xiaoran also wants that pagoda? When Xiang said worriedly, he didn't have the confidence to compete with Xiaoran for this opportunity. Lin Sun has not only that pagoda, but also a fortune from the sacred island of 5 elements. Since it's a cooperation, Xiaoran can't take it all by himself, can he? Su Xingfeng chuckled. What's more, if he doesn't agree, I'll expose his identity and tell junior sister Jingxian that Senior Brother Xiaoran, whom she respects and admires most, is the real murderer who repeatedly assassinated Lin Xian. When Xiang gasped with a hiss, this plan was really ruthless. In the depths of a mountain, Lin Sun dug out a cave residence and set up a spiritual formation to conceal the aura. If it's not Su Xingfeng or Wen Xiang, then it must be one of the 3, Xiaoran, Gong Sunyu, or Yin Che. Yin Che cultivates the great way of killing. Although his fighting capacity is extremely terrifying, he is still at the level of Sea Spirit Realm. Even if he has reached the level of Tao Insight Realm like me, it's impossible for him to have the peerless secret method of transforming himself into thousands of things. So, there are only Xiaoran and Gong Sunyu left. So who on earth is it? Lin Sun sat there with his legs crossed, still pondering in his mind. Lin Sun couldn't help but be vigilant after being assassinated twice in succession and letting the assassin escape with ease. In his impression, Xiaoran was an existence that was indistinct like smoke and clouds. He was extraordinary and stood aloof from worldly affairs, and he gave others an indifferent and distant feeling. Gong Sun Yu, on the other hand, was a descendant of the Green Sheep Spirit clan, elegant, noble, and proud. According to Zhao Jingxian, under Gong Sun Yu's proud appearance, there was actually a pure heart. He wasn't really arrogant. No matter how Lin Sun looked at it, Xiao Ran and Gong Sun Yu didn't look like mysterious and ruthless assassins. Their images were so different that it was hard to associate them with assassins. But the more it was like this, the more Lin Sun dared not to be negligent, because he knew that opponents who were good at disguising themselves were the most dangerous and terrifying. No matter who it is, when we meet again, I will make sure that they have nowhere to hide. After a long time, Lin Sun took a deep breath, and a touch of determination flashed in his deep black eyes. Without thinking any further, Lin Sun took out the wordless pagoda and sensed the first floor of the pagoda. Zhao Jingxian was meditating motionlessly. Although the injuries all over her body were healing, Lin Sun was keenly aware that the situation inside her body was still not optimistic. Obviously, in the previous battle, she had suffered far more serious injuries than he had imagined, and all this was to protect Lin Sun. This made Lin Sun feel both touched and guilty. This time, he really didn't expect that Zhao Jingxian would show up to help him, and even fight for time to recover at the risk of her life. It was precisely because he hadn't expected this that he was especially shocked when he learned of all this. And Lin Sun had indescribably complicated emotions. But no matter what, from now on, he would never tolerate Zhao Jingxian being bullied again. At the same time, Lin Sun hated Yu Shaosheng and the others even more. He swore in his heart, "Don't let me run into you again." Cough, cough. At this moment, Jean Di, who had been meditating cross-legged, suddenly opened his eyes and coughed weakly. "Lin Sun, my injuries this time are too serious. Things aren't looking good." Lin Sun already knew what Old Toad wanted to shit the moment it stuck out its butt. Hearing this, he said directly, "Sorry, I've already used up all the Lantern King ginseng." Old Toad instantly became anxious. "Chilling grass is fine too," Lin Sun said unhappily. "Even if you want to use Chilling grass, Miss Zhao needs it more than you do." Old Toad coughed dryly again with a helpless look on its face. "How about this? This king has a supreme prescription that can be called peerless. There's no need for Chilling grass. You just need to gather the various elixirs according to the prescription, and perhaps this king will recover completely." Seeing that Lin Sun wasn't fooled, Old Toad rolled his eyes and said, "Of course, this prescription is also very useful for that girl's injuries. Don't you want to give it a try? She almost lost her life for you. Do you have a heart not to take some remedial action?" Sure enough, Lin Sun was moved this time. He obtained the so-called peerless prescription from Old Toad, and his face immediately darkened after a brief examination. The hundreds of spiritual herbs listed on the prescription were all extremely rare and precious. This wasn't a big deal, but the most hateful thing was that Lin Sun happened to have all these spiritual herbs on him. This made one wonder whether Old Toad had already figured out the spiritual herbs on him, and thus deliberately took out this prescription in order to swindle some of them from him. "Old Toad, did you already plan this?" Lin Sun's expression was unkind. Old Toad looked puzzled. "What plan? Don't accuse me wrongly," Lin Sun said expressionlessly. "If you admit it, I won't bother to haggle with you and will immediately refine the precious medicine for you. But if you still refuse to comply, then I won't be polite." Although this toad was very loyal, its character was too annoying. It always wanted to take advantage of others and plunder treasures. Chapter 591. Under Lin Sun's undisguised threat, the old toad finally bowed its head in embarrassment and admitted it. But it still insisted and patted its chest to assure Lin Sun that it was doing this to help himself and Zhao Jingxian recover as soon as possible, without the slightest selfishness. Lin Sun rolled his eyes and didn't bother to pay attention to it. But in the end, Lin Sun still took action. He had prepared 3 bronze furnaces, all of which were spiritual weapons. They weren't very precious, but they could definitely be used to decoct treasured medicines. At this moment, the old toad was in high spirits, as if it had transformed into an alchemist guru, throwing elixirs into the 3 furnaces at lightning speed. Of course, these elixirs were all taken from Lin Sun, including wisteria, snow ganoderma, moonlight grass, and other rare treasure medicines. There were hundreds of them, some of which Lin Sun had collected himself, but most of them were spoils of war from the enemies he had killed these days. This 1,000-year-old Poria Coco's flower is perfect for replenishing blood and qi, together with 9-leaf cloud radish fruit, cyan auspicious root, luoan vine. The effect will be amazing. The old toad looked excited, muttering to itself as it threw all kinds of elixirs into the furnaces without hesitation. In the blink of an eye, a fragrant aroma filled the air, making people feel comfortable all over. The furnaces were glittering and overflowing with treasures, such as black marrow jade lotus, scarlet demon snow orchid, golden vine, and other treasure medicines, which dyed the furnaces with a layer of bright light. The fragrance of the elixirs was so strong that it was almost tangible, making people feel as if they were about to ascend to heaven. This was absolutely the most extravagant elixir Lin Sun had refined since he started his cultivation. The elixirs he used were all treasures that had long been extinct in the outside world and could only be found in the secret realm of Demon Saint. Now they were all thrown into 3 furnaces for refining, which could be called a magnificent feat, of course. The elixirs in the 3 furnaces were different, so the elixirs refined were destined to be different because they were prepared for Zhao Jingxian, the Old Toad, and Lin Sun respectively. The first 2 were for healing, while Lin Sun was for consolidating his cultivation, so the elixirs refined were naturally different. It had to be said that Old Toad was indeed a connoisseur of medicine. He was extremely familiar with the characteristics of various spirit medicines, and it was obvious that he had grasped quite a few unique pill recipes. This allowed him to mix treasured medicines with great ease and familiarity. This was the innate talent of the 3-legged golden toad race. They could identify all kinds of rare treasures. If they were to become alchemists, they would definitely be outstanding talents. Not long after, the old toad searched in Lin's storage bag for a long time and found a pile of fire cloud gems. Using them as the fire source, it began to refine. The glow of flames surged. In the blink of an eye, the furnaces each emanated a multicolored glow that flowed through space, and the fragrance was so fragrant that it seemed capable of entering the depths of one's soul, causing one to be intoxicated. In the end, Zhao Jingxian was called and woke up for meditation. Before she could ask more questions, she was invited by Lin Sun and Old Toad to enter the first stove to cultivate. Of course, he took off all his clothes. Under Lin Sun's cold gaze, the old toad didn't dare to peek. Even so, Zhao Jingxian still felt slightly embarrassed and uncomfortable. After taking off her clothes with her back facing the 2 of them, her pale face was dyed red. Fortunately, after sitting in the stove, she calmed down and began to meditate quietly. "Boy, you think too much. How can I be the kind of pervert who likes to peep?" Old Toad grumbled as if it was complaining. Soon after, it couldn't wait any longer and leaped into the second furnace with a comfortable grin on its face. His figure transformed into the original form of the 3-legged golden toad. He squatted in the stove and began to meditate. "Humph, if I find out that you are peeping, I will roast you directly and eat you." "I heard that toad legs are very chewy," warned Lin's son. After confirming that there was no accident, Lin's son also stepped into the 3rd stove and sat cross-legged there. The medicinal juice in the stove was strong. Spiritual herbs floated one after another. Some were golden, some were white, some were red like flames, and some were overflowing with moonlight. It was gorgeous and fragrant. This was indeed extravagant and incomparably shocking. Even if the great figures of the various clans saw this, they would probably be astounded. They could only provide this type of precious medicine to a limited number of inheritors, and it was impossible for them to casually bring it out. Lin Sun meditated quietly and recited the ancestral Taoist scripture of illusions in his mind. Suddenly, there was a sound of scripture chanting, which made Lin Sun empty both inside and outside of his body. Then, The nature insight and spirit devour scripture was running, making the cave heaven tumble and the Taoist rhyme roar. On the simple and unadorned Taoist platform, 3 white jade-like treasure lights fell, spreading a holy and vast aura. In a trance, Lin Sun completely forgot himself. Soon, he fell into a deep level of cultivation, consolidating and tempering his realm. In addition to spiritual herbs, there were some minerals and spiritual materials in the stove, such as fish-shaped greenwood crystal, palm-sized silver-horned worm, and iron-like 6-legged jade cicada. All these made the medicinal juice in the stove full of spirituality and vitality. The dense mist was steaming, and all kinds of auspicious air were flowing. The essence was so strong that it could not be dissolved. Lin Sun's body was constantly scoured and purified by the medicinal power. With the medicinal power as a primer, it was integrated into the whole body, nourishing and tempering. After breaking through the realm, the most taboo was that the foundation was unstable. Therefore, all practitioners would choose to practice for a period of time until the realm was completely stabilized. Now, Lin Sun was consolidating his realm. The Tao Insight realm was divided into 3 levels, namely the initial realm, the middle realm, and the upper realm. Each level had its own magic. However, as long as one reached the Tao Insight realm, he would begin to explore the real Tao and begin to comprehend and control the power of the Tao. This was destined to be a brand new realm, completely different from the past. For Lin Sun, his path was different from other Tao Insight realms. It was a kind of ultimate path after extreme sublimation, which belonged to one of the strongest paths that could only be seen in ancient times. For example, when he was at the Spirit Sea realm, he had already grasped the water Tao aura. Now, after experiencing the tempering and baptism of the 6 peerless lightning tribulations, he possessed the heavenly abode Tao platform that could only be established at the heavenly abode realm. Moreover, the Tao platform had integrated a trace of the power of order and law transformed from heaven tribulation, which made it strong, magnificent, sacred, simple, and extraordinary. The most unbelievable thing was the 3 grotto heaven treasure lights that were circling the Tao platform. Tao begets 1, 1 begets 2, 2 begets 3, and 3 begets all things. These 3 rays of treasure light were the manifestation of extreme Taoism, representing Lin Sun's ultimate foundation. Although Lin Sun didn't know what the magical effect of these 3 Tao Insight lights was, it could be foreseen that with the deepening of his cultivation, he might be able to see the real mystery contained in them one day. In a word, everything Lin Sun had made him stand out in the initial Tao Insight realm, even different from the world. Therefore, the tempering and consolidation he was carrying out at this moment was also to familiarize and master this completely different ultimate power as soon as possible. 3 days later, with a roar like boiling in his body, Lin Sun suddenly opened his eyes and found that the stove had already dried up. All the efficacy of the medicine had been absorbed, leaving only some dregs. I didn't expect that consolidating the realm this time would let me reach the consummation of the initial Tao Insight realm in one fell swoop with the help of the efficacy of the medicine, Lin Sun murmured in his heart. His whole body was as clear and flawless as glass, and every inch of his skin was overflowing with a suffocating luster of Tao Insight, which was indescribably holy and otherworldly. This is the benefit of exploring opportunities. If I didn't enter the secret realm of Demon Saint this time, it would be impossible for me to experience so many hardships and have so many unimaginable gains. Lin Sun had a glimmer of enlightenment in his heart. This was the reason why practitioners in the world were so persistent in looking for opportunities. It might be very dangerous, and there might be countless variables, but as long as there was a chance encounter or an inadvertent tribulation, practitioners would have a completely different transformation and become different from the past. If he had stayed in the Forbidden City all the time, he would never have such a change. Lin Sun walked out of the stove and put on his clothes. At this moment, he could clearly feel that he was stronger than before. His cultivation and strength were completely stabilized and under his control without any stagnation. Looking around, his abyss-like black eyes were flowing with a kind of profound luster that could swallow the sky. At this moment, Lin Sun's every move had a kind of Tao insight, a kind of invincible belief, and a kind of unparalleled demeanor. He even had a slight desire to take a stroll in the outside world. It would be best if he could encounter a peerless existence and have a spar with him to verify his strength. What are you looking at? Suddenly, Lin Sun caught a glimpse of Old Toad poking its head out of the stove and sneakily looking at Zhao Jingxian in the first stove. With a snap, Lin Sun hit Old Toad's forehead with his palm. Old Toad grimaced in pain and shouted, "Damn it! Why did you hit me so hard? Are you trying to kill me? If you dare to look at her again, I'll roast you and eat you." Lin Sun looked unkind. Old Toad's expression froze, and it said angrily, "I was worried about Miss Zhao's safety and wanted to see if she had recovered from her injury. I'm not as dirty and wretched as you think. Am I that kind of person? Of course you're not a person. You're a toad. Haven't you heard that a toad wants to eat swan meat? You wish." Lin Sun sneered. "You're humiliating me. If you don't apologize, I'll fight you to the end for the dignity of the three-legged golden toad tribe." Old Toad looked serious and dignified. "Well, I was just worrying about where to find a target to practice with. I didn't expect you to deliver yourself to my door." Lin Sun rubbed his fists and palms together, eager to have a try. Old Toad's face changed. After a long time, it let out a sigh and said, "Forget it. I'm a magnanimous person. I don't want to take advantage of a small human brat like you." Puff! Suddenly, a peal of laughter rang out from the first stove. It was as sweet as the sound of nature and indescribably pleasant to the ear. It was Zhao Jingxian who had woken up from meditation. Lin Sun immediately looked over, but the next moment, he was a little embarrassed. From his angle, he just happened to see a section of Zhao Jingshuan's exposed white skin. The picture was very charming and very erotic. Chapter 592. Inside the furnace. Zhao Jingshuan's body was glistening and smooth, her beautiful hair falling down like a waterfall. Her back was to Lin Sun, revealing a section of her delicate and fair back. Her shoulders were as sharp as a knife. Her lotus arms were like mist and snow, and her slender snow-white gooseneck shone with an alluring luster. It was just a view of her back that seemed to have been cut out, but it gave off an incomparably breathtaking feeling. In the past, Zhao Jingxian had always been a woman dressed as a man. Her face was bright and clear, and her bearing was natural and unrestrained. Now, her long hair was loose, and her fragrant shoulders were bare. That kind of graceful scene was naturally especially impactful. Lin Sun couldn't help but be startled at this moment. He immediately looked away and pretended to be calm, but in fact, there was still a trace of amazement left in his heart. "Bah, you still won't let me see? You're almost drooling when you see it. Shameless, really shameless. You're simply a beast in human clothing." Next to him, Old Toad seized the opportunity to attack without restraint. Lin Sun immediately flew into a rage out of shame. He stared at Old Toad and said, "Am I as unbearable as you say? If you make slanderous accusations again, I'll kill you first." Old Toad rolled its eyes and said disdainfully, "What? Now that your true shamelessness has been exposed, you're going to kill me to silence me?" As the two quarreled, Zhao Jingshuan's pretty face was also flushed in the furnace. There was a trace of embarrassment and annoyance in her clear eyes. She bit her lustrous red lips and glanced around. Seeing that the two of them had their backs to her, she hurriedly got up from the furnace and put on her clothes. But what was worse was that at the same time, Lin Sun turned his head and quickly explained, "Miss Zhao, don't listen to this toad." Before he could finish speaking, he was stunned to see a graceful figure walk out of the furnace like a hibiscus out of the water. Her legs were slender and as white as mutton fat jade, incomparably moving. Her waist was slender and full of luster, and further down, her round and plump. "You!" Suddenly, a clear rebuke rang in Lin Sun's ears like a clap of thunder. He was so startled that his whole body stiffened, and he hurriedly looked away. At the same time, his heart was thumping wildly. The scene he had inadvertently caught a glimpse of just now was simply too thrilling. Any normal man would have their blood boiling. But at this moment, Lin Sun's scalp was numb, and he had no other thoughts in his mind. He felt a cold, killing intent locked on him. Needless to say, it must be Zhao Jingxian. Ha ha ha, you're in big trouble. Old Toad winked and smiled, taking pleasure in other people's misfortune. Shut up. Lin Sun and Zhao Jingxian shouted at the same time. The former became angry out of shame, while the latter's face was as cold as frost. Meanwhile, Zhao Jingxian had already changed into a set of violet clothes that concealed her graceful and slender body. But her jet black and beautiful hair hadn't been coiled into a bun in time, and it hung down. Coupled with her peerlessly beautiful features and skin that was moist and smooth, it caused her to have a gorgeous charm that wasn't present in the past. I really didn't mean it just now. Lin Sun explained embarrassedly. Since he started his cultivation, he had always been a man of few desires. It was also the first time for him to encounter such an alluring scene. Although he was amazed, he couldn't help feeling anxious. I think you did it on purpose. Old Toad took advantage of every opportunity to add insult to injury. Lin Sun gnashed his teeth in hatred and wished he could skin this toad alive. At this moment, Zhao Jingxuan's mood was also a little subtle. She took a deep breath and said, "We cultivators don't need to stick to such details. There's no need to mention this matter in the future." She was obviously pretending to be calm, and her words were very awkward. But Lin Sun was relieved and said with a smile, "That couldn't be better." Unexpectedly, before he could finish speaking, Zhao Jingxian glared at him fiercely. Her red lips were moist, and her pearly white teeth were like jade. At this moment, when she glared at him, there was a hint of shame and resentment in her clear eyes, which actually had a different kind of charm. Lin Sun also couldn't bear it. In the past, Zhao Jingxian dressed up as a man, with a natural and unrestrained manner and a hearty temperament. Although Lin Sun knew she was a woman, he didn't have many other thoughts. But now Zhao Jingxian was different from before. She had the posture of a girl, with a jade face and picturesque eyebrows. She was like a peerless beauty who stood aloof from the world. Coupled with the breathtaking scenes he had inadvertently glimpsed just now, Lin Sun always felt a little diffident when facing her. Old Toad rubbed his chin and looked the two up and down with his golden eyes, murmuring, "Why do I feel that the relationship between you two is a little strange? In the battle a few days ago, in order to help Lin Sun, you even risked your life, but now you look like you want to bite him to death. It's really weird." Speaking of this, he seemed to understand and patted his forehead. Is this the legendary love-hate relationship? The corner of Lin Sun's mouth twitched fiercely. With a bang, Old Toad was directly kicked away by him. Zhao Jingxian commented, "That's a good kick. Very satisfying." Lin Sun smiled and said, "It's our duty to eliminate evil for the people." Old Toad squatted in a corner in grief and indignation, gnashing his teeth and cursing loudly. What a pair of adulterous husband and wife. I finally see your ugly faces clearly. Before he could finish, Zhao Jingxian couldn't bear it either. She rushed up and gave Old Toad a good beating. Only then did she feel refreshed and asked with a smile, "Where did you find this guy? One look, and I can tell he likes to be abused." Looking at Old Toad, lying on the ground with a bloody nose and a swollen face, Lin Sun couldn't help laughing. Seeing this, Zhao Jingxian also couldn't help smiling sweetly. Only Old Toad almost burst into tears. He swore in his heart that he would definitely break up this pair of violent madmen and women. Otherwise, his life was destined to be dark in the future. During this period of seclusion, Zhao Jingxian and Old Toad's injuries had completely healed, and their cultivation had also improved. In particular, Zhao Jingxuan's cultivation had been suppressed at the initial stage of Tao Insight Realm by the current emperor for a whole 10 years. According to her foundation, she should have been able to break through to the reincarnation developing realm long ago. Now, after this ordeal, she finally took a step forward and broke through to the middle stage of Tao Insight Realm. Although it was only a small advancement, It undoubtedly made her change as if she had been reborn. According to her own calculations, ordinary saint-level figures were no longer a match for her. This suddenly reminded Lin Sun of something. As early as before entering the demon saint's secret realm, Zhao Jingxian had said that with the help of the Nine-Dragon Cauldron, she was even confident to fight against the strong practitioners of reincarnation developing realm. Now that she had made another breakthrough in cultivation, Lin Sun believed that her combat effectiveness must have improved a lot. This was so terrifying that Lin Sun couldn't help but click his tongue. That's nothing. You haven't seen the ruthless people of ancient times. They were the real freaks. Some of them even stepped into the divine path as soon as they were born and were known as born saints. The old toad's saliva flew everywhere as it pointed out the situation. Comparatively speaking, your so-called holy sons and holy daughters may still be considered heavenly geniuses in the current world, but in ancient times, they wouldn't be enough. Stop bragging. Lin Sun slapped the back of Old Toad's head, which made the latter fly into a rage and curse repeatedly. I've also heard of the horror of ancient times. There were countless geniuses and freaks at that time, and some of them were even spiritual bodies born from heaven and earth. They were like the favored children of God, and the strength of their foundation was even more incredible. As soon as Zhao Jingxian said this, Old Toad immediately became complacent and said, "This chick is really knowledgeable. As far as I know, the ancestor of the six-eared macaque tribe was born from a strange stone born from heaven and earth. As soon as he appeared in the world, he had amazing magic and was extremely terrifying." Speaking of this, Old Toad coughed dryly, looking proud and conceited, and our three-legged golden toad tribe is also born from the destiny of heaven and earth. In terms of foundation, there are only a few who are stronger than us. Bragging again. I don't see how strong your combat effectiveness is, Lin Sun said and slapped the back of Old Toad's head again. Old Toad shouted angrily, "If I hadn't lost the memory of my previous life, I would have climbed to the top of the Great Way and transcended the heavens. How could I be bullied by a shameless and black-hearted human like you? This guy is a descendant of the three-legged golden toad, which is really amazing. Their tribe was really not simple in the ancient times. They could seek fortune and avoid misfortune, recognize all things, and were born with auspicious signs." Zhao Jingxian looked thoughtful. She was also a little surprised. She hadn't expected Jin Duyi to be from the three-legged golden toad tribe. In today's world, this tribe was almost extinct, and there was almost no trace of them in the ancient Desolation territory. Brilliant, really brilliant. This Ms. Zhao's eyes are like torches. Old Toad gave a thumbs up. I happen to lack a cultivation companion. Miss Zhao, do you want to consider? With a plop, he was sent flying by Lin Sun's punch. A toad wants to eat swan meat? Lin Sun sneered. Old Toad's face was full of hidden bitterness, and he swore in his heart that when he rose to power, he would definitely teach this bastard Lin Sun a lesson. Next, they talked about the pursuit a few days ago, as well as the assassin who had tried to kill Lin Sun twice in a row. When she learned that the assassin was very likely to be either Xiao Ran or Gong Sun Yu, Zhao Jingxian was a little startled and fell into silence. After a long time, she said with clear eyes, "If you know who the killer is, what do you plan to do?" "Eliminate all future troubles." Lin Sun's answer was very simple and decisive. "I'll help you." Unexpectedly, Zhao Jingxian didn't feel embarrassed at this moment and directly expressed that she would help Lin Sun. "This doesn't seem appropriate. You are all descendants of the holy land of spirit treasure. If you kill each other, it will only put you in a disadvantageous position. Let me handle it alone." Lin Sun looked solemn. "I have my own considerations." Zhao Jingxian smiled and didn't explain much. She changed the topic. "According to my speculation, as long as we go to Zixia Holy Mountain together, we may find out who the real killer is." Zixia Holy Mountain? Yes, that's the place of inheritance of the demon saint. The real opportunity hidden in this secret realm will appear there. As early as a few days ago, the top figures of all tribes have already been waiting there. "Well, let's go there." A cold light flashed in Lin Sun's black eyes, and he was full of fighting spirit. On the same day, they left the mountain together, and under Zhao Jingshuan's guidance, rushed to the mysterious Zixia Holy Mountain. P.S. Once again, thank you, Brother Pilot, for your gifts. Tonight's monthly votes exceed 900. Currently, there are 857 votes, only 40 votes short. Chapter 593. There were mountains upon mountains and towering ancient trees. The Demon Saint's secret realm was extremely vast, with swamps, deserts, mountains, lakes, and so on. It was like a small world isolated from the rest of the world. Lin Sun and the others moved cautiously and vigilantly along the way. This place was extremely dangerous. There were many unknown creatures and killing intents hidden here. A few unremarkable old trees might turn into terrifying creatures in the next moment, devouring all life that passed by. Some ferocious birds built nests on the rocks. Their nests shone brilliantly and overflowed with the light of treasures, looking like they were hiding very tempting treasures. However, they would be attacked by the birds once they got close, and it would be difficult to stay alive. Along the way, they could also see huge snakes that looked like giant vines. Their bodies were so long that they dangled down from the mountain peaks, and their scales were cold and shocking. There were also ferocious purple spiders with green faces and fangs, colorful centipedes that were more than 3 meters long, and ferocious insects as tall as a man. Those creatures were extremely terrifying and dangerous. Once you stepped into their territory, you might be annihilated. They were clearly the natives of this secret realm. They had almost disappeared from the outside world long ago, but they were now entrenched in various areas of the secret realm, which was chilling. Lin Sun and the others moved cautiously, but even so, they still alarmed a terrifying existence. It was a butterfly the size of a cattail leaf fan. Its wings were overflowing with a colorful luster, and its green eyes were like burning willow, the wisps. It didn't look ferocious, and even had a bewitching and beautiful aura. However, it was extremely dangerous and more terrifying than any of the creatures they had seen before. If Old Toad hadn't reacted quickly and avoided this area with all its might, it might have been killed. This made them suspect that the strange butterfly might be a being in the life and death realm. Boom! In the distance, the butterfly had already been startled awake. It clearly couldn't tolerate Lin Sun and the others escaping, so it gently flapped its wings and set off a colorful storm. The colorful divine light blazed and turned into a storm that rumbled and swept through the world. Wherever it passed, mountains crumbled, the earth cracked, and the void wailed. It was a terrifying scene. From a distance, the phantom butterfly looked like a king standing between heaven and earth. Enshrouded in colorful light, it looked very gorgeous, but when it flapped its wings, it could cause world-destroying destruction. It was too terrifying. Lin Sun and the others were almost killed. Fortunately, they had already avoided it. Furthermore, because of the storm that the butterfly had kicked up, it had alarmed a nearby green fox. It immediately leaped out and let out a dissatisfied howl. Boom! The azure fox was handsome and possessed an ethereal aura like that of an immortal. It spat out a stream that was clear like moonlight from its mouth, and it just happened to be like the Milky Way descending from the 9 heavens as it swept towards the butterfly in the distance. In an instant, an intense battle erupted in that area. The impetus of the battle shook the heavens and the earth, and it was extremely terrifying. These are definitely 2 life and death realm powerful beasts. Old Toad sucked in a cold breath. Let's go. Lin Sun didn't have time to observe and rushed to the distance with all his strength. The scene just now reminded him of the golden-winged rock and peerless serpent he had seen in the depths of the desert. They were equally terrifying. This demonic Saint Mystic realm is too dangerous. There are terrifying great demons everywhere. If I didn't see it with my own eyes, who would believe it? Both Lin Sun and Zhao Jingxian felt that the secret realm of Demon Saint was not simple. Its origin was unpredictable. It was by no means as simple as the place of inheritance of the Demon Saint. I've even seen the 5 Elements Sacred Island, Lin Sun told Zhao Jingxian some of his experiences and discussed them together. Before going to Zixia Holy Mountain, I've also seen several places of opportunity, all of which are filled with the aura of sages, similar to the five elements sacred island you mentioned. However, those places of opportunity have long been occupied by other races, so I don't know what's hidden in them. Lin Sun couldn't help but be awestruck by Zhao Jingshuan's words. It turned out that there were many places of opportunity like the five elements sacred island in the demonic Saint Mystic realm. There's no need to guess. I have a general idea of where this place is. Suddenly, Old Toad looked fanatical, and his golden eyes were shining. He said, "This is the place where the sages preach. It's a place for cultivation prepared by the ancient sages for their descendants. They hope that when their descendants are born one day, they can transcend the past and create a new legend." There was a trace of excitement in his voice. It's a big deal. It's absolutely a big deal. If I'm not mistaken, the creator of this secret realm is not one person, but a king of the Holy Tao who led a group of sages to create it. Otherwise, it would be impossible for it to survive the passage of time until now. My God, this is the ruins of End, one of the four great ancient ruins of Tao. It's such a taboo and terrifying place. Yet they actually established a secret realm here with the intention of seizing a great fortune for their descendants. Such extravagance is simply world-shocking. Lin Sun and Zhao Jingxian looked at each other and were secretly surprised. In ancient times, a king of the Holy Tao led a group of sages to the ultimate to open up a secret realm and build a Taoist field, all for their descendants. They hoped that when they awakened, they could transcend the past and create a new legend. If this was true, it was indeed too shocking. Why did they do this? Could it be that they foresaw something, so they decided to arrange a way out for their descendants and didn't want them to repeat their mistakes? The more they thought about it, the more frightened they became. The ancient sages were so terrifying that even they seemed to have encountered a difficult problem and began to prepare a new way for their descendants. This was too shocking. Do you remember the little child you mentioned? He must be a descendant of a sage. You seized some of the fortune around him, so when he comes out, he will certainly be the first to come after you. The descendants of Sage are all insufferably arrogant little monsters, incomparably heaven-defying. Speaking of this, Old Toad was a little gloating as if it was watching a show. Oh, Lin Sun raised his eyebrows and sneered. I can't wait for him to come to me so that I can seize the last part of the Tao scripture of the sage. Aren't you afraid? Old Toad glared. What do you think? Lin Sun slapped the back of Old Toad's head, making the latter grimace in annoyance. In that case, what's hidden in Zixia Holy Mountain may even be a place of fortune left by a king of the Holy Tao. Zhao Jingxian suddenly opened her mouth, her clear eyes full of surprise. Indeed, Old Toad nodded, but you must be careful. Maybe the descendant of the Holy King is also sleeping there. Such a person's origin is even greater and more terrible. If you want to share the fortune there, it is bound to be more dangerous. If that's really the case, I'd rather give up this fortune. Zhao Jingxian muttered. After all, the consequences will be much more serious if you get involved with a descendant of the Holy King. Before Lin Sun could speak, Old Toad was the first to get anxious, shouting, "Don't. Since we're already here, how can we go back empty-handed? What bullshit descendant of the Holy King? I'm just speculating blindly. Don't take it seriously. Don't be scared off." Lin Sun immediately laughed. This damn greedy toad was willing to do anything for the sake of fortune. I'm serious. Do you know what the all-living preaching land is? To put it simply, it could be summed up in 8 words: passing on the torch, endlessly multiplying. No matter how glorious these sages were, they all died in ancient times. How can the fortune they left behind be monopolized by their descendants? Old Toad's expression was solemn and solemn. As the saying goes, fortuitous encounters are destined by the heavens. If we're the first to seize that fortuitous encounter, that proves that the fortuitous encounter does not belong to those descendants, and vice versa. Well, this toad was determined to seize the fortune. Both Lin Sun and Zhao Jingxian were speechless. To be honest, they were quite unwilling to give up on the fortune and leave just like that. No matter what their guesses were, it wouldn't be too late to make a decision after going there to take a look. After making their decision, they continued on their way. This secret realm was full of spiritual objects. There were all kinds of rare spiritual herbs, spiritual materials, and minerals, which were all treasures that were almost extinct in the outside world and were astonishingly valuable. Lin Sun and the others picked up quite a few good things along the way. Of course, when they ran into some extremely dangerous areas, they still avoided them early, not daring to approach or offend them. By the time they were close to Zixia Holy Mountain, Lin Sun's storage ring was already filled with piles of spiritual herbs that were incomparably fragrant. Spiritual materials were piled up and filled with treasure light, as well as all kinds of ores and rare treasures of immeasurable value. If it weren't for the fact that this secret realm was too dangerous and unknown, Lin Sun would have stayed here to continue cultivating. Along the way, Zhao Jingxian and Old Toad also had their own gains. The two of them also sighed with emotion. This secret realm was simply a natural treasure trove, a blessed land for cultivation. Unfortunately, it was too dangerous, and one careless move could lead to death. Before long, a giant purple mountain appeared in their field of vision. It was extremely majestic and towering, rising straight into the sky. Its whole body was covered in purple flames, overflowing with multicolored light, ancient and vast. It was indeed like a holy mountain, like a miracle. Just one glance at it was enough to shock people. It was impossible to imagine how long it had existed. Purple chi from the east, divine light, immortal Taoist fire, everlasting. Old Toad's whole body stiffened, its pair of golden eyes blazing and surging with a shocking luster. The atmosphere here is sacred and boundless. It definitely hides a great fortune. It's really extraordinary. Lin Sun couldn't help but be shocked. That Zixia holy mountain was filled with a kind of lofty and supreme aura, which made him feel a sense of awe. Let's go. They've been waiting there for a long time. Zhao Jingxian led the way, her figure fluttering towards the distant Zixia holy mountain. She had been here before. It was not until now that Lin Sun suddenly realized that in the nearby area, many strong figures had appeared from time to time. They were densely packed, and their goal was the same: to rush towards the distant Zixia holy mountain. This opportunity hadn't appeared yet, but it had already attracted the attention of so many forces. It could be seen that when the opportunity really appeared, this Zixia holy mountain was bound to set off a monstrous storm, and competition and killing were bound to be inevitable. Chapter 594. Something is wrong. There is some kind of change here. Suddenly, Zhao Jingxian, who was leading the way, stopped, and her face changed slightly. She acutely noticed that a mysterious and divine energy of restrictions surged in the nearby space, with violet glow divine mountain at its center, and it caused others to be unable to fly through space. Walking in it was like being trapped in a quagmire. Even if one had the fastest body movement, he couldn't fly here. He could only run on the ground. This didn't exist at all when Zhao Jingxian left here last time. We can't fly. Lin Sun also noticed this scene and was surprised. The void seemed to be covered with prohibition, which suppressed the flying power of all practitioners. It's very simple. This amazing opportunity is about to appear, and a test for practitioners is about to begin. The old toad's eyes were burning and full of longing. Kill! There was a sound of fighting in the distance, accompanied by a strong smell of blood. At the foot of Zixia Sacred Mountain, the strong people of all races gathered and were all climbing. They wanted to rush to the top of the mountain as soon as possible, so terrible conflicts and fierce battles broke out. There was a river of blood, and the scene was bloody. The opportunity hasn't appeared yet, so why have they started fighting? Zhao Jingxian was stunned. They are competing for the opportunity to occupy the most advantageous position. When the opportunity appears, they can compete for benefits at the first time. Lin Sun made a judgment after a brief observation. I remember now. A few days ago, when we set foot on this mountain, We found a total of 49 paths leading to the mountain peak. At the end of each path is a different location on the mountain peak. At each location, there is an ancient altar. Zhao Jingxian said quickly. At that time, there were not many forces here, so there was no fighting and competition. We successfully occupied an altar on the top of the mountain. Now it seems that those forces who have arrived recently are obviously competing for the altar area at the end of each road. Hearing this, Lin Sun suddenly understood. There were 49 roads leading to 49 altars on Zixia Sacred Mountain. Obviously, this layout must have a deep meaning. If they wanted to seize the opportunity, the force that could occupy the altar area could undoubtedly seize the opportunity first. The Great Tao is 50, and the Heavenly Evolution is 49. There's only a slim chance of survival. This is a F*King deadly situation. Old Toad's expression changed. I suddenly have a premonition that a truly great opportunity will appear on this purple sun sacred mountain. However, this also means that great danger will come. In the end, only a small group of people will be able to seize the opportunity. Come, let's go to the 9th mountain path. Xiao Ran, Yin Che, and the others have already occupied that place. Let's meet up with them. Zhao Jingxian took a deep breath and continued forward. Lin Sun originally did not want to meet those people. After all, whether it was Su Xingfeng, Wen Xiang, Xiao Ran, Gong Sunyu, or Yin Che, he was afraid that they would all be eyeing him covetously. If a conflict erupted, it would only make things difficult for Zhao Jingxian. Didn't you want to know who tried to assassinate you? We should take advantage of this opportunity to settle this matter once and for all, lest any unforeseen circumstances arise. Zhao Jingxian added as if she had seen through Lin's mind. Lin Sun no longer hesitated. The three of them moved forward cautiously. At this time, they were not the only ones. There were many experts in the nearby areas who had rushed over. They were all in groups and belonged to different clans and forces. Obviously, as time passed, the competition would only become more and more serious. At the foot of Purple Sun Sacred Mountain, the battle was very fierce. Sounds of killing shook the sky in different areas. Many figures frantically rushed up the mountain path, but they died halfway, dyeing the mountain red with blood. Without a doubt, in order to seize the opportunity, the experts of various clans all wanted to occupy an altar at the first moment. No one dared to hold back. This was destined to be the craziest battle before the arrival of the opportunity. The experts were as dense as a forest, killing each other. All kinds of secret techniques and treasures collided, killing each other to the point of insanity. Lin Sun and the others were also on guard, not daring to be careless. However, before they could get close to the 9th mountain path, they were drawn into the battle and were besieged. In fact, it was not only them. When the experts of other clans arrived, they would inevitably engage in killing and fighting. No one could take advantage of the situation. Kill. When the battle broke out, Lin Sun no longer held back. Holding the broken blade, he rushed up the mountain path with Zhao Jingxian and Old Toad. It seemed that there were only 3 of them, but they were like a peerlessly sharp blade. They were invincible and unstoppable all the way. It should be known that Lin Sun alone had defeated the siege of a group of holy sons. Moreover, he had hunted them down and defeated the experts of other clans. Blood flowed all the way. They were unstoppable. Now Lin Sun had Zhao Jingxian and Old Toad by his side. How could those experts resist when the 3 of them joined forces? God, it's that young demon god of the human clan. He's here too. Run away. That ferocious killer is here. Before long, Lin Sun's identity was recognized, which immediately set off an uproar. The nearby experts all looked like they had seen a ghost. They kept retreating with fear on their faces. They did not dare to confront Lin Sun at all. The fierce name of the young human clan had already spread throughout the demon saint's secret territory. He was known by the experts of various clans. Therefore, when Lin Sun was recognized at this moment, it set off such a big sensation and made those experts fearful. What was power? That was it. But in this way, it made Lin Sun and his companions much more relaxed. The obstacles in their way were almost gone, and they smoothly set foot on the ninth mountain road. I didn't expect that you're so famous now. As soon as you appeared, you shocked the whole audience and made them consciously retreat. You're so mighty. Zhao Jingxian teased with a smile on her face. Lin Sun shrugged and said, "Don't be careless. There must be someone who is not afraid of death who will jump out." Sure enough, as soon as his voice fell, a terrifying aura suddenly broke out. An expert attack from one side. "Shut up." Old Toad immediately cursed. Lin Sun was also speechless for a while. He was just joking just now. He didn't expect that it would come true. Bang! Zhao Jingxian took out the Nine Dragons treasure cauldron and resolved that terrible blow. Yu Xiaosheng. Lin Sun saw that the guy who attacked was Yu Xiaosheng, the holy son of the Dragon Whale clan. "How dare you come here to die?" Lin Sun's face suddenly darkened. The broken blade crossed the sky and attacked the opponent. As early as a few days ago, Lin Sun had defeated Yu Xiaosheng and almost killed him. He didn't expect that Yu Xiaosheng still had the courage to run out, which really surprised Lin Sun. But soon, Lin Sun understood that Yu Xiaosheng had found more than one helper. The holy son of the demonic elephant clan, the saintess of the Leewood clan, the holy son of the Jade Scale clan, and the holy son of the Water Ape clan were all among them. In addition to these familiar enemies, there were also some other men and women, all of whom had extraordinary momentum. Obviously, they were all top existences at the Holy Sun level. No wonder Yu Xiaosheng dared to show up. If it was anyone else who drew in such a group of top powerhouses, he would not have any scruples anymore. Boom! The battle had completely erupted. Yu Xiaosheng led all the holy children to attack with all his might, and he withdrew various secret treasures and executed profound techniques. Space was dazzling as it flowed with the glow of treasures, and its impetus was shocking to the extreme. In just a moment, Old Toad couldn't hold it anymore, howling and dodging. Even Zhao Jingxian felt strained. She could barely resist with a Nine Dragons treasure cauldron, but couldn't launch a counterattack at all. "You go first." Lin Sun was completely angry. Yu Xiaosheng and the holy son of the demonic elephant clan had escaped last time, but this time they joined forces and came to offend him, which was intolerable to Lin Sun. He stood in front of the mountain road alone, with blazing light surging around his body. His Taoist connotation was flowing, and his momentum was disdainful of mountains and rivers. It seemed that he could hold back 10,000 enemies by himself. Boom! The broken blade swept through the air, splitting out a bright river of stars, which rolled back the void and bloomed with dazzling light. He was just one person, but he fought against a group of holy sons by himself. Such a shocking scene even attracted the attention of other nearby powerhouses, who were extremely surprised. This young demon god was so fierce and arrogant. Did he really think that he could dominate the group by himself? "You're courting death. Everyone, let's kill him together and take away his fortune first." Don't you all want to know why he is so incredible? It's because he got the incredible fortune from the holy island of 5 elements. Yu Xiaosheng let out a long roar, attributing Lin Sun's strength to the fortune of the holy island of 5 elements. His intention was extremely sinister. Sure enough, those holy sons were all envious. They rushed desperately, making the mountain shake and wreak havoc. Fortunately, they were in Zixia Sacred Mountain, a mysterious forbidden area that couldn't be damaged. If it were in the outside world, the fluctuations of this battle could destroy a mountain and river. "I'll kill you first," Lin Sun roared, releasing a violent aura. His figure was like an ice dragon, breaking through the restraint of the holy sons and attacking Yu Xiaosheng. Yu Xiaosheng was shocked and quickly dodged. How could he expect that Lin Sun would be so powerful after being besieged like this? Whoosh! Lin Sun waved his sleeve, and a black light shot out. It was not only aimed at Yu Xiaosheng, but also some holy sons nearby. This black light was naturally transformed by the spirit-eating insect. No matter how talented Yu Xiaosheng was, he had never seen the power of such an ancient insect. He was caught off guard and was drilled into his sea of consciousness by the spirit-eating insect. Suddenly, Yu Shaosheng and several other holy sons screamed. Their faces were distorted and ferocious because of pain, which was particularly horrifying. This made some other holy sons feel cold. What the hell was that? Why was it so mysterious and vicious? Ah, Yu Shaosheng screamed. Realizing the danger, he turned around and wanted to escape. Where are you going? Lin Sun shouted, stepping on the ice dragon steps and breaking forward, many times faster than his opponent. Puff! The broken blade flashed, and a head was thrown into the void. Blood gushed out like a spring. Yu Shaosheng was killed on the spot. The strangest thing was that his wisp of divine soul was clearly being wrapped up by the power of the life spirit bone talisman and was about to teleport and disappear. But the moment he left, his soul suddenly collapsed and was completely devoured by a pitch-black bug that was only the size of a grain of rice. Chapter 595. Yu Shaosheng was dead. Even if the bone talisman saved him at the last moment, it was too late. His soul had been completely devoured, and there was no possibility of resurrection. This bloody and cruel scene caused a wave of gasps to resound in the surroundings, and the expressions of many chosen changed. The reason why they dared to be fearless was that they had the bone talisman. Even if they were killed, they had a chance to survive as long as their souls were not destroyed. But Yu Shaosheng's death was undoubtedly a wake-up call, and they were all terrified. What kind of insect was that? How could it be so terrifying? The battle was still going on. After Lin Sun killed Yu Shaosheng, he swept away his corpse and the dragon bone halberd. Then he shifted his target to the Saint of the Green Scale clan, who was also attacked by the spirit-eating insects and was now howling in pain. Swish! Lin Sun's body glowed, and he rushed out with a broken blade in his hand. The other saints were all fearful. When they attacked again, they were already on guard, afraid to repeat Yu Shaosheng's mistake. This provided Lin Sun with a chance to catch up with the Saint of the Green Scale clan and kill him with all his strength. There was no suspense in this battle. No matter how the saint roared and struggled, he couldn't resist Lin Sun, and his neck was finally cut off by Lin Sun's broken blade. Blood gushed out, and another saint died. Like Yu Shaosheng, his soul was also devoured by the spirit-eating insects mercilessly, and he didn't even have time to escape. The green jade ruler in his hand was also taken away by Lin Sun along with his corpse. Seeing that Lin Sun killed two saints in a row in a flash, and even their treasures were plundered without hesitation, all the people present changed their expressions. Too ruthless. This guy wasn't a young devil at all. He was simply a demon who plucked the feathers of a goose. Not only did he kill, but he also robbed. Retreat. They didn't dare to delay any longer, and all the saints fled. They were originally a temporary alliance, and it was destined that they couldn't work together. When they saw Yu Shaosheng and the Saint of the Green Scale clan being killed, they were scared. Out of a sense of self-preservation, they decisively chose to retreat. Want to leave? It's not that easy. Lin Sun still couldn't vent his hatred. Instead, he chased down the mountain road with a broken sword in his hand. In the blink of an eye, he split the holy son of the demonic elephant clan into two halves. Unfortunately, he did not have the help of the soul-eating insects this time, so the opponent escaped with the help of the bone soul talisman. Don't let me see you again. Lin Sun gritted his teeth and looked at the saintess of the Leewood clan and the other saints who had fled far away. In the end, he didn't give chase. The experts in the nearby area moved far away and kept quiet like cicadas in the winter. Their expressions were filled with fear and astonishment, and there was actually not a single person who dared to approach. What's more, this area actually stopped fighting because of Lin Sun. Obviously, they were all shocked by Lin Sun's ferocious means just now. Indeed, who would have thought that a group of saints would be defeated by Lin Sun in the blink of an eye? Even Yu Shaosheng and the Jade Unicorn Holy Sun were killed. There was no possibility of resurrection. This was too shocking, which made those overmatches more and more aware of Lin Sun's horror. Who dared to make trouble at this time? Lin Sun ignored these, while running meditating magic to reseal and suppress the soul-eating insects. He began to plunder the spoils of the demonic elephant clan. After doing all this, he turned around and set foot on the 9th Mountain Road, floating away alone. From beginning to end, his clothes were clean and spotless, indescribably aloof. Watching him leave, all the heroes in the field breathed a sigh of relief at the same time and secretly wiped their cold sweat. This young devil was so abnormal. But soon, they had no time to care about this and rushed to other nearby mountain roads. No one dared to choose the ninth road anymore. There was no other way. With Lin Sun there, it was like there was a devil there. Who dared to fight for it? Was it not good to be alive? You are really a monster, boy. On the mountain road, Zhao Jingxian and Old Toad didn't leave. They had been paying attention to the field. When they saw Lin Sun float back from the battlefield like a cloud of dust, Old Toad couldn't help murmuring, "Don't talk nonsense. Let's go." Lin Sun squinted at Old Toad. Every time he saw this guy, he had an impulse to beat him, but he didn't know why. Maybe this guy's temperament was too wretched and deserved a beating? "Those insects are very powerful," Zhao Jingxian said thoughtfully. Of course, she could see that the reason why Lin Sun could kill his opponents so neatly in the battle was because of those insects. Otherwise, it would be impossible for Lin Sun to kill them in a short time under the siege of a group of saints. "Let's go." Lin Sun smiled and didn't explain anything. Zixia Holy Mountain was ancient and sacred, with a kind of lofty and boundless atmosphere. Even a mountain road was full of vicissitudes. Walking on it, it was like returning to the ancient times. Everything in sight was sacred. Kill! In front of them, there was still a scuffle. Some strong people were fighting. Obviously, these were the strong people who had rushed up the mountain road earlier. But they met on the road, and a conflict broke out. Boom! In the scuffle, some strong people attacked Lin Sun and the others. Obviously, they didn't know what had just happened at the foot of the mountain. Lin Sun didn't bother to talk nonsense. Whoever attacked him, he would kill them without holding back. In just a moment, they fought their way out of the encirclement and continued on their way, leaving piles of corpses and pools of blood on their way. Seeing that the situation was bad, some strong people immediately admitted defeat and took the initiative to avoid the disaster. At this time, Lin Sun was like a real devil. His broken sword was stained with blood as he climbed the mountain road with Zhao Jingxian and Old Toad. Wherever they passed, anyone who tried to attack would be mercilessly killed by Lin Sun. Along the way, more than 10 strong people were killed one after another, including a saint. Unfortunately, his bone talisman was still there, so he escaped death. At the same time, outside the ultimate, the big shots couldn't calm down. Because the big opportunity of Zixia Holy Mountain was about to open, they were all paying attention here. On this day, many fierce battles broke out, and no one knew how many strong people died. Some core figures brought back by the Bone Talisman also brought back the latest news. Heroes have gathered at Zixia Holy Mountain. I wonder who will defeat all the enemies and have a last laugh. The big shots sighed, their emotions surging. According to their deduction, the opportunity hidden in Zixia Holy Mountain was definitely the most valuable in the Demon Saint's secret land. But because of this opportunity, our clans have also lost too many people. It can be said that blood has flowed like a river. It's really sad. There were also big shots who lamented that this great opportunity was accompanied by a great killing intent. Too many strong people were destined to die, causing great losses to the clans. But there was no other way. This was an opportunity. If a corresponding price was not paid, how could it be obtained so easily? It's just a few people died. Why are you so sad? At any time, the struggle for the great path is bound to be accompanied by blood and killing. No one can avoid it. Once you step on this path, there is no turning back. These words were a little harsh, causing many big shots to frown. When they looked over, they realized that the speaker was Grandmother Tiansha of the Dragon Whale clan. Although the big shots felt uncomfortable, they could only remain silent. There was no other way. This old woman's temper had become terrible because the Dragon Whale clan's people had almost been wiped out. No one wanted to anger her at this moment. Buzz. Just then, the life soul altar in front of Tiansha Granny started to vibrate. However, no spirit was teleported back. She was stunned. Luckily, it was just a false alarm. Grandmother Tiansha comforted herself. The Dragon Whale clan had suffered too much. Almost all of them had been killed by Lin's son. This made her so angry that she was about to go crazy. If even Yu Shaosheng, who was the only one left, had an accident, she would not be able to bear it. But a moment later, news came from other places. Not good. That young human demon god has appeared. He single-handedly killed a group of saints, and even Yu Shaosheng, the saint of the Dragon Whale clan, was killed. Not even his soul was left. Boom! Grandmother Tian Sha felt like she had been struck by lightning. Even with her life and death realm mentality, she could not control her emotions. She suddenly let out a scream, her body shaking with anger. She could not help but cough out a mouthful of blood. Young human, she seemed to have gone crazy, causing the expressions of the powerful figures nearby to turn strange. They wanted to say, "It's only a few clansmen who died. Why do you have to go this far?" However, no one dared to do so. Grandmother Tian Sha had clearly been provoked to the point of going crazy. If they tried to provoke her again, it would only bring trouble upon themselves. At the same time, those powerful figures were shocked inwardly. That young human had also gone to the Purple Cloud Divine Mountain. With his existence, the variables would be too great. Even Yu Shaosheng could not escape and was killed directly. The consequences would be too severe. When the news that even the saint of the Jade Scale clan was killed, and even his soul could not escape the calamity, the scene was thoroughly shaken. All the powerful figures were bewildered. Their faces were gloomy, and killing intent surged in their hearts. That young human was simply a scourge. Wherever he appeared, there would be a rain of blood. It was too hateful. This opportunity must not fall into the hands of this kid. Otherwise, those clansmen who are competing with him will suffer. Some powerful figures mumbled with ashen faces. Elder Gaoyang was already having a headache. Why was it him again? Every time, he would incur the wrath of both humans and gods. Could it be that he was really a malefic star? Demon Saint's secret realm, Purple Cloud, Divine Mountain. Lin Sun and the others were bathed in blood as they advanced. Soon, they were close to the peak of the mountain. There was a battle here as well. A group of strong cultivators wanted to occupy this area. They were fighting fiercely with Xiao Ran, Yin Che, Su Xingfeng, Wen Xiang, and Gong Yangyu. The battle was extremely intense. It was obvious that it had been going on for a long time. Clang! Lin Sun waved his broken sword and rushed over. If he was alone, he would definitely watch from the side and not rescue them. However, he had Zhao Jingxian by his side. He just didn't want Zhao Jingxian to be caught in the middle. After all, she was the descendant of the Spirit Treasure Holy Land. It was reasonable for her to stand on the side of the Spirit Treasure Holy Land. Therefore, Lin Sun attacked without hesitation. This caused Zhao Jingxian to be slightly stunned, and then she understood Lin Sun's intentions. A wisp of a strange expression suffused her clear eyes, while the corners of her plump and moist lips curled up imperceptibly, and a wisp of an indescribable feeling enshrouded her heart. Old Toad rolled its eyes and laughed, a wretched expression on its face. "Haha, this guy is definitely a master of making a fortune in silence." Without saying anything, he used his actions to conquer the heart of a great beauty. Zhao Jingxian rolled her eyes and gave Old Toad a word. "Get lost." Chapter 596. The top of the mountain was a platform of 100 meters. The ground was hard and flat, as if it had been flattened by supreme force. The ground was filled with an ancient aura, and it was even branded with mysterious marks. At the center of the platform, there was a gray altar with a gloomy luster. At this moment, the battle broke out again. Xiao Ran and other descendants of the Holy Land of Spiritual Treasure were fighting against a group of extremely powerful practitioners. The light was rising, and the secret treasures collided. The situation was extremely fierce. Clang, clang, clang. Xiao Ran was wearing a blue robe, and his black hair was fluttering. He sat cross-legged on the ground and played the zither with his 10 fingers. The sound of the zither was sonorous and impassioned. It could be clearly seen that the invisible sound waves turned into sabers, spears, swords, halberds, axes, battle axes, hooks, forks, and so on. They were vivid and flowing with illusory and ethereal Tao aura. This kind of attack was extremely unpredictable and mysterious, and its power was equally terrifying. It was able to pin down more than half of the enemies. In other words, Xiao Ran alone suppressed half of the enemies in the field. Moreover, looking at his indifferent and calm posture, it was obvious that he didn't expend much effort. Kill. On the other side, Yin She held a blood sword in his hand. His killing intent soared to the sky, like a peerless sword demon, fierce and unparalleled. It was the grand Tao of slaughter, and it pressed forward with an indomitable will. The terrifying aura of slaughter raged through the surroundings, and it similarly caused one's heart to palpitate with fear, causing many experts to be unable to bear the brunt of it. Gong Yangyu's fighting method was relatively simple. He waved a purple rui, which shone with a dazzling light and poured down like a rain of light, giving off a dreamlike aura. Clang! Wen Xiang's figure was like that of a child, but he was extremely swift and fierce in the battle. He held a silver collar in his hand and constantly bombarded and killed his opponents. His movements were unparalleled and bold, full of valiant spirit. Su Xingfeng was like a king of fire. His eyes were burning like divine flames, and his figure was surrounded by surging flames. His Tao aura was raging, ostentatious and cold. As soon as Lin Sun joined the battle, he observed the fighting methods of Xiao Ran and other descendants of the Holy Land of Spiritual Treasure while fighting. Even he had to admit that the Holy Land of Spiritual Treasure was indeed extremely terrifying. All of these disciples could be said to be blazing suns, and they possessed their own paths towards the Tao. Their resources and reserves were deep, and their combat strength was extraordinary. They were sufficient to compare with the chosens of the other races, or even surpass them. It would be understandable if it was only a single person who was so powerful. But now it was a group of people who were so powerful. This was too unusual. However, the opponents that besieged them this time weren't simple. There were over 10 of them, and they were obviously the top and extraordinary figures of the various races. They attacked together with the intention of occupying this area, causing the battle to seem extremely intense, and it was utterly impossible to determine the victor in a short period of time. However, with the addition of Lin Sun, the situation of the battle suddenly changed, and those opponents were caught unprepared. Perhaps these enemies did not expect that the numinous treasure sacred land would have reinforcements. Furthermore, the reinforcements were an extremely savage young fiend celestial. Boom! As soon as the battle started, Lin Sun swept his broken sword and seriously injured an enemy in a short moment. At the same time, he firmly suppressed the other 3 nearby enemies. He was so powerful. The battlefield immediately became chaotic, and there was a burst of exclamations of shock and anger. The original balance was broken. Both the enemy could sense Lin Sun's strength. Xiao Ran was slightly startled, and then a smile appeared on his lips. He continued to play the zither, and the sound of the zither became more and more impassioned and sonorous, like an ancient war song, with earth-shattering, killing intent. Gong Yangyu glanced at it and then withdrew his gaze. He was as proud and elegant as before. Yin Che snorted coldly, clearly dissatisfied with Lin Sun's interference. As for Wen Xiang, he just smiled and said nothing. The expressions of those enemies changed slightly. Not only did they sense Lin Sun's presence, but they also saw Zhao Jingxian, an old toad, not far away. This made them realize that the situation was not good. This series of subtle changes happened in the blink of an eye and did not affect the continuation of the battle. On the contrary, with Lin Sun's participation, the fierce battle became more and more chaotic. Boom! Lin Sun did not care about this. He waved his broken sword, and the dazzling starlight turned into a waterfall of saber chi, crushing the void with unparalleled strength. In the blink of an eye, another enemy was sent flying by Lin Sun. His body was badly mutilated, and he screamed mournfully as he was seriously injured. Damn it! Who is this guy? It looks like that young demon god of the human race. What? How could it be him? Could the rumor be true? Is he also a descendant of the holy land of spirit treasure? Damn it! Angry shouts rang out in the field. When they determined Lin Sun's identity, the expressions of those enemies couldn't help but change as they recalled many bloody rumors about Lin Sun. This made their hearts heavy, and they became increasingly aware of the severity of the situation and how bad it was. Seeing Lin Sun's current performance, Xiao Ran and the others couldn't help but raise their eyebrows. They seemed a little surprised, and there were also some subtle emotions that were hard to describe. At this time, Zhao Jingxian and Old Toad joined the battle, and the situation immediately changed. They began to be disadvantageous to those enemies, putting them in a dangerous situation. Boom! When Lin Sun heavily defeated another opponent, suddenly, a dazzling flame swept over, and a terrifying aura of destruction enveloped Lin Sun. We don't need help at all. Who asked a retainer like you to attack? Scram! The one who attacked was actually Su Xingfeng. His expression was cold, and his voice was filled with disdain. Although he said that the strength of this attack was not ordinary, and it was obvious that he wanted to kill Lin Sun. How could Lin Sun have expected that he would be rejected and attacked by Su Xingfeng when he came to help out of goodwill? Under such sudden circumstances, Lin Sun was caught unprepared. He used Ice Drake steps with all his strength, and only then was he able to narrowly avoid this attack. But even so, his shoulder was still grazed by a wisp of flame. His skin and flesh split open, and a part of it was charred black. This caused Lin Sun's expression to instantly sink, and killing intent surged in his black eyes. If it wasn't for the overall situation, he would have already disregarded everything and gone to kill Su Xingfeng. This guy actually suddenly attacked him in the middle of such an intense battle because he hated him. He simply deserved to die. Get lost. If you dare interfere again, I'll kill you first. Su Xingfeng shouted in an incomparably cold and aloof manner. It was as if he was berating a servant, and his words were filled with contempt and humiliation. F***CK your grandma. We came to rescue you out of goodwill, but you didn't appreciate it and even dared to attack us. You're really a piece of **T. I've never seen such a despicable bastard like you. Old Toad was infuriated and shouted loudly. Senior Brother Su, what do you mean by this? Zhao Jingxuan's expression was cold, and her clear eyes were filled with sullen anger. Her voice seemed to be squeezed out from between her teeth. When she saw Lin Sun being attacked, she was also greatly surprised, and then an indescribable anger rose in her. This Su Xingfeng was obviously bullying people on purpose. This change made the situation even more delicate. The enemies were all surprised, but they couldn't help but secretly rejoice, wishing that they could kill each other. At the same time, they were a little confused. Retainer? That guy actually regarded that savage teenager as a retainer? My God, what the hell was going on? Junior Brother Su, don't be rude anymore. The most important thing now is to unite against the external forces and kill these opponents, instead of letting your emotions affect your decisions and causing internal strife. At the critical moment, Xiao Ran spoke. His voice was calm, but it had an inviolable majesty. Humph! Su Xingfeng snorted coldly, stared at Lin Sun coldly, and said no more. Lin Sun frowned, looked at the apologetic Xiao Ran in the distance, and then looked at Su Xingfeng. Finally, he took a deep breath and forcibly suppressed the killing intent in his heart. If we really fall out later, you can do it. Even if I have to give up this opportunity, I will help you seek justice. Zhao Jingxuan's resolute voice came into his ears, which warmed Lin Sun's heart, and he nodded secretly. Kill. The battle didn't last long and ended hastily. The enemies had already sensed that something was wrong. They didn't dare to risk their lives and decisively chose to escape. Lin Sun didn't stop them, nor did he chase after them. Under normal circumstances, at least he could take this opportunity to kill some enemies at this time. Unfortunately, he was attacked by Su Xingfeng just now, and his heart was cold. How could he help them kill the enemies wholeheartedly? The enemies fled, leaving only the descendants of the Holy Land of Spirit Treasures, Lin Sun, and Old Toad. There were no more opponents. However, the atmosphere didn't become relaxed. Lin Sun's expression was calm, but cold. He stood far away with Old Toad, not just because of Su Xingfeng. More importantly, there was an even more powerful assassin hidden in this group of people. Zhao Jingxian confronted Su Xingfeng and wanted to help Lin Sun get justice. Her beautiful face was full of coldness and anger. He's just a retainer. What's wrong with reprimanding him? Junior's sister Zhao. Are you going to fall out with me for a retainer? Su Xingfeng sneered. He clearly knew that Lin Sun's identity wasn't as simple as a retainer, but he still insisted on the word retainer. Obviously, he was humiliating and despising Lin Sun. Fall out? No. If you don't give me a satisfactory answer today, not only will I fall out with you, I don't mind fighting with you. Zhao Jingshuan's voice became even colder. Gong Yangyu, Wen Xiang, Yin Che, and the others tried to calm the two of them down and take a step back. Unfortunately, neither Zhao Jingxian nor Su Xingfeng appreciated it. In the end, it was Lin Sun who came forward and persuaded Zhao Jingxian to calm down and endure for the time being. There would always be a chance to settle the score in the future. Lin Xian is right. A peerless, fortuitous encounter is about to be born. Before that, we must work together and unite against the outside world. Only then will we be able to seize this fortuitous encounter from this brutal competition. I hope that everyone can temporarily put down your personal enmity and not cause any more trouble. Xiaoran opened his mouth as well. His demeanor was transcendent and solemn. Look, those are our opponents. As he spoke, his gaze looked towards the distance. The peak of Violet Cloud Divine Mountain was divided into 54 different areas, and every single area was guarded by the top figures of the various clans and powers. All of them had come for the sake of seizing the fortune here. One could imagine how horrifying and bloody the competition would be when this fortuitous encounter was born. Chapter 597. If you can't wait, you can watch it tomorrow.